Hey, I'm Nashi.
I'm Rezlar.
And I'm Frosty. Welcome back to the Value Pack.
Hold on, I have to gear check Nash right now. Alright, that is some bull jabber. Dude, he CC'd me out of dance. What's happening? Rezlar!
People look at you like you're crazy, and they refuse to admit that it's pay to win, and just scream that it's pay to convenience! It's pay to convenience!
Big money, big money, big money,
Big
money!
money!
Oh shit, we got it! We fucking got it! And welcome everyone to a very, very special episode of the Value Pack podcast. We have quite a loaded episode today. We got some guests, plural, that we got to introduce. But before I get to that, I want to thank our lovely patrons. Hawaiian Eye Has Issues, Jeremy Johnson, Calahad, Melt On Your Mouth, Minaria, Slytech, Talus X Septum, and thanks. Appreciate you guys for what you do, and for everybody else who supports us. Boy, we got some stuff. We got some stuff to do today. We got a lot of things to go through. Some heavy, in-depth discussion, specifically around the Warrior and Ranger reworks that are up on Global Labs. People have been messing around with them for a couple days now, and to kind of help us go through those discussions for those classes, because these are not classes that we play. We have two very special guests with us today. We have Flannels and BiceptimusPrime. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah, no problem.
Hell yeah.
Man. Real quick, so the interesting thing about both of these guests is both of them were winners of the Full Gear Best in Class tournament. Flannels won over on the Rangers side, Biceptimus winning over on the Warrior side against all odds. Kidding, I don't know if they were against all odds. And then Flannels went on to become godlike. Unfortunately, Biceptimus fell a little bit short. And then last week we had the 3v3 tournament, and Flannels, your team was in the finals, and you had one of the most epic matches, both in the 2v2 where it became you in a 1v2 against Divios and Vert, and then your 1v1 against Divios was pretty nuts. So congratulations to both you guys in all of your tournament success. I kind of am curious, starting with Flannels first, like how is your tournament experience so far overall with like these official Pearl Abyss tournaments that they've been doing?
It's pretty good. It's a lot of practice and going in AOA, finding out the new strats. The meta is always like changing, so it's things like if you look back 6 months ago, nobody was ever listening to V or doing this, but now your whole strategy, I feel like, in these 3v3s is you have two people, you pop a V, and you have one guy, which was Divios in their case, and he's really good at it. Try to headhunt the Vs, and you just gotta go from there and follow up. And it's a lot of fun. Just practicing AoA, or I guess as competitive as the game can get, in a sense. It's really enjoyable.
Do you prefer the 1v1 style or 3v3? Or 2v2, I guess, either one.
So naturally, I was always preferring the 1v1, but I also feel like that was because my 3v3 was lacking a little bit, but it's gotten better lately, and I love group fights, man. They're so fun. Like, trying to pop off in 1vx is the greatest feeling in the world if you could actually try to make it work.
Yeah.
I don't think anything beats a clean 1v2 or 1v3 clip, right?
Nope, especially not from a Ranger, because you don't see it that much. In that last moment in the 1v2, did you I'm trying to like remember exactly how it went down, but once you were in the 1v1 with Divios, is there anything that could have gone differently to make you win that 2v2? Or what
Yeah, I could have just shotgunned him and traded him. It's just heat of the moment things. I'm not really thinking. I was going for like a CC, like, oh, gotta play up his face, gotta go for a CC to clutch this out, like in the moment,
mm,
when I should have just chilled back and used bow, and then probably would have won the round.
yeah. It was still so epic, dude. That was crazy. I was so high. I like could not believe it when I saw that regenerate, or that when I saw the double CC. I was just like, oh my god. Biceptimus, kind of same question to you. How's your tournament experience been with these like official tournaments, and have you been in any like BSL or any of the other tournaments, and how do they like compare?
Sorry, was that for me?
Yes, that was for you. That one was.
I'm sorry,
for you.
I just got interrupted real life.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, I was asking how the tournaments, like
Yeah.
the official ones from PA, compare to like maybe some other ones you've been in the past.
Oh yeah, so I used to be in all the tournaments back in the days. I played Awakened Witch back then, which was a very different experience than playing an Awakened Warrior. But like it's really good. The tournaments back then were more community driven. It was hosted by Good Vibes Guy and Dr. Positive.
Yep.
With support from Kakao, right? But the tournaments right now have been going pretty smooth and just really enjoying it so far.
Have you played Warrior since you started playing BDO? I know at some point you were a Witch, but I can't remember how you started off.
I started out as Witch, and I played Witch for 2.5 years, I want to say. Then I was kind of looking for something else. Like at the time, Witch was by far the worst 1v1 class, and it was also the worst grinder in the game, and it didn't scale proper. Back then, there was a lot of issues with with scaling, like bugged pit damage and stuff like that. And I was pretty much top 10 geared player in NA back then on the Witch. And I had no value in my gear. And I loved 1v1. I did the tournaments, and there was a lot of reasons for it that I was looking for something else. And I tried out a couple different classes. Valkyrie, which was my original one that I wanted to roll to. I guess a PvP ult and grinder. And then I tried out Musa, which was actually a good class back then. Actually a top tier class. And then accidentally, I tried out my cooking ult, which was a level 56 warrior. I did the Awakening quest, and I spent 45 minutes just moving around, jumping around, and using abilities in Heidel. And then I was like, well, okay, I know what I'm playing now. It was just way too good. It was way too much fun, and everything just clicked. Literally spent 45 minutes just using abilities in Heidel.
Yeah.
And yeah, been warrior ever since.
And then last year, at the beginning of the year, when Successions came out, were you into Succession Warrior, or you kind of knew right away you were more into Awakening?
No, I'm like historically in all games, all the way since Diablo 1. Pretty much, I love playing mages and warriors with two-handed weapons.
Right. Cool.
In any game I play, I end up playing those two archetypes. So I know that like Sword and Board is not a playstyle for me, but obviously I tried it out. I gave it a fast shake. I played Succession Warrior for, I want to say 1 or 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just went back to Warrior. Sorry, went back to Awakening Warrior. It's just not for me.
What about you, Flannels? When did you start playing BDO, and were you Ranger from day one?
I started playing BDO when Archer came out, and yeah, I was Ranger since day one. I've played other things, but nothing really actually mained. It's just more like a side refresher thing for fun. I've picked up classes.
And were you into Succession Ranger? Like, do you enjoy Succession Ranger or prefer Awakening, or what's your preference on that?
I definitely prefer Awakening and love Awakening. Succession, I play it for large scale, and I don't mind it, but at the end of the day, just moving around and like kiting and playing those mind games on Awakening, it's just too good for me.
Right. Before we talk about I actually want to do the potions at the end. We'll talk about that at the very end. But before we get into the actual reworks, from your point of view in the current state of the game, we'll just focus on Awakening. I think Succession, everyone kind of knows its main struggle is 1v1. Once you get gap closed on, it's very difficult to defend yourself. Awakening's issues in the game, I think, are a little bit more complex. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from your point of view, Flannels, what is Awakening lacking? Like, what is it good at, and what does it struggle with currently?
So Awakening pretty much is you can't ever use it in large scale. If you do, you're still gonna end up being, I feel like, in the back of the ball, just spamming shotgun. And at that point, it's like, well, why would you not play Succession, right? You're doing the same exact thing with just more damage. But I would say, like the skirmishes when it comes to things, like let's say open world, like small GVGs, like 10v10s, it feels like Ranger falls off. And even in AoA to a certain extent, like group group settings, I think it can work, but at the same time, you have to build around it to work, rather than, oh, let's just slap a ninja in this comp and he's gonna do great.
Right.
Yeah, so it's one of those weird things. We were lacking a bit, like I guess reliable protected damage or just like damage in general. Like a lot of our stuff, it hits extremely hard. It's just you're not always able to get it off because it is like all unprotected for the most part, or um we got a lot of new options on G-Lab that I'm happy about, but we just have to see.
Yeah. Um. What about your PVE?
I don't grind, but I know that on Awakening, uh, I think you're asking the wrong person this, but I do know that I think Ranger Awakening it's good, it's okay. It's fairly high APM compared to other things, I've heard, but I think it could use a buff.
Yeah.
Succession, I think, it has a big problem from just not getting back attacks, and so that hurts the PvE in a lot of aspects, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Um. Biceptimus, kind of the same thing. In the current state of the game, not what's happening yet on Global Labs. Where is Warrior good and where is it struggling? I guess more specifically Awakening, for now.
We've been talking about Succession. I have actually picked up Succession a couple of weeks ago
Okay.
because I wanted to relearn it in case I wanted to do some guides on it and play it a bit again, just recheck it. So I've talked a lot to Kisito, the winner of the Godlike Warrior from EU,
Yeah.
who's a Succession Warrior. So I actually have some feedback from him as well. But yeah, I'm like definitely way more on Awakening myself. So for Awakening and to some extent Succession as well, right? The biggest strength of Warrior is 1 versus 1. Like it's the reason you see all those cool highlight videos and montages and stuff like that from Warriors and 1 versus 1, and it's known as being an extremely strong 1 versus 1. I don't think there's really a single matchup that's a hard counter to Warrior. Not that Warrior wins every matchup on average, but you can pretty much win any matchup.
Right.
And in small scale, Warrior does really well as well. It's a fairly good skirmish class. Not top tier, but it can definitely hold its own in skirmishing, small scale. And then it just falls off. Anything after that, it just the more player there are in the fight, the worse Warrior becomes. And grinding, there's one spot in the game where Warrior is a good grinder, and that's Star Sense. Everywhere else, Warrior at best is eh.
Yeah.
And when we're talking in-game grinding, it's just straight up bad. Like we're literally talking a Succession on being 50 to 100% better than an Awakened Warrior grinding at the in-game grind spots.
Right. What specifically makes Warrior bad? Because if you look at like in large scale and group fights, because when you look at Warrior, like on paper, it seems like it has everything. Like you have a lot of mobility. You do have like okay AoE damage with grave digging and slashing and stuff, but what is it that differentiates like Warrior from what some of the other classes are able to do in like a large scale siege or node war?
Um, there's a couple of things. I think like one of the easiest classes to compare to would be probably Guardian in a large scale setting.
Hmm.
Um, for the AoE on Warrior's abilities are not actually that big compared to what some of the other classes are, and that's one of the reasons that they're also getting increased. But um, it's also the gaps in our abilities, not that much protection. Our block is significantly weaker than even Succession Warrior and especially Guardian. I believe the number is something like Guardian block being 4 times as strong as an Awakened Warrior block. So when we're in a fight and taking damage, we are surprisingly squishy. Um, and a lot of the abilities have gaps in them. On top of that, um, the warrior class is really good at getting out a couple of abilities of damage, and then that's it. Everything after that kind of falls off. And when it comes to protected damage abilities, warrior doesn't have that much, and the ones we do have gaps in them. Um, yeah, a lot of the reasons warrior can do a lot of damage in combos and stuff like that is unprotected stuff, and that just doesn't work in large scale.
Right. So starting with Warrior with these reworks, and this is kind of an interesting perspective from you two because you both were able to submit some feedback to the ART program. And I'm kind of curious if, starting with you first, Biceptimus, if there's anything in this list of changes for Warrior that you felt was kind of some of your feedback or some of the other Warriors' feedback that actually got implemented here.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
And there might also be some of my direct feedback, which was tested and found to be too strong because of some of the other stuff that was done. So, like, they definitely have listened. Like, I have no doubt in my mind they have listened to the feedback and checked it out. But there are a couple of things specifically with the gaps, the rework of Frenzied Dash. Yeah, size on AoE and the damage, especially in like so. I don't know. I guess I don't think it's on the NDA, but specifically the issues that was identified, like for me, was large scale PvP
Uh-huh.
and PvE. Like those two things is the areas where Warrior needed some rework or adjustments and complete rebalancing. It's not just changing numbers; it's the increasing of size of AOE's. It's being balanced around different things. So historically, and they addressed this as well in their response, right? That historically, Warrior has been balanced around getting knockdowns and down attacks in PvE.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the game has changed since launch, well, you don't really get knockdowns and down attacks in PvE anymore. So if your class damage is based around that for PvE damage, and you
Yeah.
don't get those, you obviously fall off. And then you just, like, the way mobs function and pulls work nowadays is just so much different than the Medaya grinding days, right? So bigger AoEs, it's harder to group mobs up. So when all your damage is very frontal cone and like small width, and now mobs are all around you in AoE, it just, yeah, you just can't
Right.
compete with the functionality of other grinders nowadays.
So for PvE, the changes that you saw with grave digging, slashing, pulverize, and reckless blow, like you feel like these are pretty significant changes that'll help in PvE?
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty much the changes they've done for PvE for Waken Warrior is pretty much exactly what needed to happen.
Okay.
And also by doing these changes, so first off, when it comes to like the PTR and all that right now, the actual damage output and numbers and everything, it's hard to like judge at the moment.
Right.
It's more the functionality and how the class plays that's really important to look at right now. And the way War plays right now with these changes is way more in line with other classes of the newer classes, meaning that's also going to be way easier to balance numbers in um, in the future.
Right. One of the things I heard a lot leading up to the warrior thing, and I think Resler, you probably heard this, and everyone's heard this a million times, is like one of the big fears of these reworks is that they were going to dramatically change how their class is played. One of the things people were saying is they were going to remove cancels. They were going to simplify the class and sort of dumb down everything. To what extent do you feel like that is true or untrue with these changes so far?
So again, it was really nice reading the letter as well from PA with the Global Lab update.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things they were saying was they could literally have been taking like of my feedback, and that was about like watching out the feel of the class and all that. And I'm sure pretty much all the warriors must have mentioned that, how it feels to play, and they addressed it. And the biggest concern was dumbing down the class, right, making it too easy. And the hope was that they would raise the skill floor but not lower the skill ceiling, and they nailed it. They didn't, to my knowledge. There's a few things that are changed with cancels, but some of them I think I might be literally like the only one using, so it's not a big deal. Such as it's like balance hill strike cancels on overwhelms. Like I don't think anyone else is really using that stuff. But other than that, it seems everything is still there, and all the changes they've done is just remove the requirement of doing animation cancels and making the abilities flow way better. So the difference between somebody playing the class at 100%, the guy is still going to be playing it at the same level. And
Right.
there will be a difference between somebody like, let's just, somebody that plays the class at, let's say, 100%, right?
Right.
And somebody that plays the class pretty well. But the difference now is going to be less. It's going to be less difference between somebody with 60 FPS and 200 FPS.
Right.
You'll still get like the big more value. You can still do all the cancels, but you don't have to. And I think that's super important. In my opinion, they nailed it.
All right, so I'm going to come back to you for the 1v1s. I want to ask Flannels, kind of the same setup. You got to submit some feedback. I didn't get a chance, both Ranger and Warrior feedback. I didn't really get to see any of it. I know a lot of the feedback leaked out, but from what you've seen personally, and I know kind of every Ranger has very different ideas on what they wanted and what the class needs, but just from your perspective, what you felt Ranger needed, how much in here is something that you addressed in your feedback, Flannels?
Pretty much everything, actually. Um, I was saying that we needed more mobility, or that the classes, it feels a little slow. So, I guess in comparison to other classes, like Awakened Ranger is more this like turtle lingery class, and going off, I'm like, well, if you reduce all the cooldowns, then it can keep up. You know, it won't be blazing fast. It won't be like Nova or anything, but it'll be able to keep up. And they did that. They gave us more mobility, and it seems like all of the problems nearly, they did a good job of addressing and trying to change and fix.
Right. One of the things I heard a lot of leading into this is uh, Rangers AoEs, and that kind of goes towards heavily PvE, but also large scale, because there's a difference between having to be point blank in someone's face like a tamer and being able to use katana shower blade spin like a ninja with a little bit of space between you and the player.
Yeah.
But also back attacks and some of the split damage stuff. How much of a difference in PvP do you think the back attack change is going to actually make?
I think it'll help, but I think in actual practice, I don't know if it'll be that significant, because how often, like, if you look just naturally, you have two balls going at each other.
Right.
It's not like the Ranger is um a, a flex class, right? They're not gonna flank you from the side. You're gonna be always looking at them. But I think when they do get those back attacks, it'll definitely feel noticeable and help.
Right. Does it have as much impact on Awakening Ranger like securing kills in if you were in like a large scale or like a 10v10 GVG having those back attacks?
It could help. It's hard to say because the bow doesn't necessarily, in Awakening, the absolute skills don't do like reliable damage,
Mm-hmm.
so it's definitely gonna help. Uh, I think the answer of securing those kills though was fixed in other ways.
All right, so the the big thing that everyone is talking about is uh evasive explosive shot. So the way it works, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert, is when you use it, let's say you use absolute evasive explosive shot, the first 2 times you use the ability, which is A and D and R and B, you do your flip, has a stiffen on the first one, and it's iframe. And then after that, typically, it goes unprotected, iframe, unprotected, iframe while it's on cooldown. And then once it's back off of cooldown, you get the double iframe again. So they made it so you no longer get that iframe while it's on cooldown. Do you feel like that affects Succession and Awakening differently, and B, that they added enough stuff to compensate for that loss of protection?
Uh, so yeah, it affects Succession and Awakening completely differently. I think that there's a argument to maybe be made to add the spammable ES back to the Prime version to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
But for Awakening, uh, no, it does not. I feel like the main thing I'm going off of when it comes to that, like, oh, does it need it or did it get compensated? Is it's hard to say right now because we're the only 2 classes reworked. It has to go off of the other classes because I think that Awakening Ranger, it got a bunch of amazing tools. It got a bunch of mobility. I don't think that you'll need to spam ES as an Awakening Ranger anymore. Uh, but you just have to wait and see because maybe the other reworks come out and then my mind will change. But
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely got a lot of good stuff. So I don't think that. And I mean, it's my class. I mean, hate on it, but is a spammable iframe that healthy for the game on any class like that? I don't think so. I don't think I'm the only one that has one, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
100%. I mean,
you just have to wait and see.
it's funny because like a lot of the ranger and I understand too, it's uncomfortable when you lose something on your class that people have been used to for a super long time. It feels bad. So I totally like sympathize with rangers that are like, man, like that's like my muscle memory and my brain is like, if I'm in danger, I'm holding that button. um
Yeah.
a lot of the really good rangers aren't holding it as much. I mean, they do sometimes, but they're not doing it as often. But then people that aren't ranger are just like, why was that ever a thing? You know? And I know a lot of people complain. It's like one of the major complaints about Sork, one of the major complaints about Sage before Bolt became super armor. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. The other thing too is when you're spamming it, again, I'm inserting my opinion here, but when you're spamming it, it's like you're not like accomplishing anything during it. You're just like running and a little bit kind of just hoping that you don't get hit on the in between when people are just throwing stuff at you, especially in group PvP. So I kind of like the idea that you have, like the lower cooldown, rushing wind, the new little iframe scoop back, stuff like that to kind of weave in, as well as the lowered cooldown of rushing wind. Or sorry, wind step. So I wanted to ask you about wind step specifically. So they changed wind step a few months ago to make it so the backwards version increases like how far you move, and I believe it matches now. Right, going forward and back is exactly the same, and they lowered
Yeah.
the cooldown to 2 seconds, from 3. Like, how major is that in your rotation, and also like how much of a difference does that make in large scale?
That buff specifically feels so good because I remember when they did change it a couple months ago, I'm not necessarily a fan because one thing that they did do was it increased the distance backwards, but it was by I want to say literally half a step. It wasn't significant. What it really was it chained together better. Like if you were to spam the dash backwards, it
Hmm.
chains together really good. And it got sped up. So like let's say the distance you go from point A to point B, it got sped up. So I wasn't a fan because obviously if I'm going to from point A to point B faster, my iframe is less, right? I wasn't necessarily a fan. So I remember talking to the devs. I submit like I guess feedback and I immediately said like, yeah, you know, if they want to buff the dash, I'm sure everyone would love a lower CD. I think that if that'd be like problem solved, and then we ended up getting it. And I think 2 seconds on wind step, the dash, I think it's huge. It's gonna be so good, man. I can't wait to use it.
um, I was talking with I can't I think it was Armin that told me. So I was on paper. I didn't get a chance to test because they need to give us the global lab like character copy thing so badly because I don't have that book that you get when you first make a character that lets you have awakening in succession. And I was like, I don't want to do the quest line yesterday. So I don't have a chance to like actually like play around and feel the skills myself. But when I read the changes for Breezy Blade, they say the movement distance no longer changes when you move forward while it's on cooldown, and the attack range is increased. But Armin was saying, I believe Armin was saying that you said that you weren't a fan of the change because they actually lowered the base distance. Is that true of how far Breezy Blade moves you?
Um, it feels like it. I could be crazy because they changed animations and everything too,
Right,
slightly.
right. So it looks different.
Yeah, it j- but my one complaint that I do have about it is before, whenever I used to use Breezy, it used to go to the actual player. Like say I breezied into somebody, it would go to them. Now it just kind of gets stuck on the edge of their hitbox. I- Um, I'm not sure if that's like an oversight or not, but it's just really easy to get caught on somebody's hitbox now, especially with that, instead of trying to go past them and in combos, or maybe I want to go in like engage with Breezy and then the distance gets cut short. There's a lot of problems with it in that sense, but I'm not I have to like mess around with it more. I feel like it's so new.
Right. Um, Before I get back to Warrior, I want to talk about two more things. The attack, not the attack range, but the cooldown of Waltz. So this one's pretty big because that's typically the core skill that a lot of rangers take. Um, and that got a 2 second cooldown reduction. How do you feel about that? I assume you love that.
Yeah, it also got doubled in AoE size, something that not a lot of people talk about or I guess know
Hmm.
yet, but it's good. Like, of course I'm liking it, but also at the same time, I feel like our bonds, we're like really locked into one, which being Waltz, and it would be nice to see more variety. So maybe add like I don't know how you do it because even if they did add like let's say regen or vine knot or the new shifty skill, they added a float onto that into the bonds. I think I'd still be picking Waltz. It just seems like the best option. I don't know how you go about changing that, but it is really good so far. I think it's gonna be really strong in PvP. Giant AoE knockback with that's protected with 5 second CD.
Yeah. And then Call of the Earth. So now you can use Call of the Earth from Awakening and it'll keep you in the swords.
Yeah.
Um and also the buff now will give accuracy to your party. Um your thoughts on
Yes.
that change?
I think it's good. I think that group group buffs are healthy for the game because certain classes have them, which obviously, you know, let's say that you play a class that is off meta or something, but it has a really nice group buff. Well, there's more of a reason to fit that class into a comp now. So I think it's overall better. in a way, right? Like
Right.
just trying to give everyone their little own unique group buff. And I think 9% accuracy is going to be really huge.
Yeah. Are we gonna add something else?
Nah.
Okay.
It's just
Biceptimus. So you also got a group buff. They changed your shout to what was it before? A DP debuff or a
Yeah,
10?
it was a 10 DR debuff previously.
Right, and now it's a 20 DP buff for your team.
Yes.
Do you like that, or how do you feel about the group buffs being added?
I like it, but this is one of the things that I didn't think about when I first saw. I was like, oh, this is great, this is awesome. It's on a 1-minute cooldown. It's a 10-second buff. This is something nice. It's unique. Pop this in a group fight. That's for large scale. Awesome. And exactly as Flannels is saying, like having something like group buffs, it means that the few people playing this class or whatever, and even if it's off meta, it's a bit more value in bringing the stubborn players that don't want to go and rail the bottom stuff, right?
Right.
So that's good. But Kizizu made me aware of one thing, and I actually agree with that. And I totally forgot that was a thing. Warrior already had that buff. We already
team?
have a party. Yeah. Oh, Succession Warriors Q block gives you a party buff that is 20 DR. The same buff that you have right now as a Succession Warrior, they're just giving to Awakening Warrior on Warcry. And while I think it's a great idea, I think it would be more cool if there was like a bit more uniqueness between. So I don't know if maybe they made 2 separate versions of that buff for Awakening Succession, but maybe that's nitpicking and all that. But I do like the idea about Succession being the bit more protective class, and then maybe Awakening having, I don't know, a damage party buff or something different. But other than that, I do like it, yes.
The Awakening Warrior party buff can increase your frame rate by 20 frames per second.
See, now we're talking.
It turns on FSR on optimal settings, dude. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the. I was perusing Reddit, which I'm told not to do, but I enjoy watching the
world burn.
fire. Yeah, it can be very entertaining. I was hopping in different Discords, watching screenshots from different Discords, and basically, if you're not a warrior, and I don't know, I don't want to speak for Rangers towards the warrior thing, but for most other people, they're looking at this and they're like, this is crazy. So I want to talk about a couple of the big things that I think people are upset with. And I think one of them I agree with, and then the others I want to get your opinion on. So
I think I agree with that one as well, by the way.
The evasion debuff and the accuracy buff. So the accuracy, you guys get a 12% accuracy buff on Hilt Strike added, which is the flow to balance strike. And you also got an evasion debuff of 12% on Solar Flare. So that one specifically, let's focus on that one first. Your thoughts on how necessary those were, if they're too much, too little, or and Warrior's relationship against evasion.
Yeah. So it sounds weird, and Warrior has pretty good accuracy modifiers on our abilities. Most of our Awakening toolkit got 20 or 25%.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that Warriors is good against evasion, but I'm not entirely sure why. We're not. We actually don't deal good damage against evasion. Warriors, for whatever reason, actually struggles against evasion. There's a couple of things about those. First off, I definitely think we needed something. Originally, there was the video PA put out showcasing it, and you could see there was going to be an evasion debuff on Solar Flare. And right away, I thought, perfect. That's going to be a 5% evasion debuff. That's going to be super nice. Great. Turns out to be 12%. Yeah. So, it's, in my mind, it's way over the top. But there is a couple of caveats to that. And that's I think my number one, we haven't even talked about this, but I think it's probably the first thing we should have talked about and mentioned. And it's actually my favorite thing with this entire rework. My number one thing that I'm so excited about this rework, even before seeing it, it was a little line in the text saying that they were all coming to life at the same time.
Right.
That is my favorite thing, because this here happened with Succession Wars back in the days. And we have to see it in context. So let's say, like, on paper, 12% buffs up and down, way too much. However, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with other classes. Maybe we're going to see 25% evasion buffs coming out. Maybe we're going to see a lot of accuracy debuffs. Who knows? If that doesn't happen, it probably needs to get nerfed. 5% on the evasion and accuracy would probably be totally okay in the current state of the game. But we have to see what happens with other classes as well. So I get it. It seems like a lot. It seems like way too much, right? But we'll have to see it in context. The second thing about those buffs is actually how to proc them. So it might seem like it's this is my issue with those buffs. They're not really gonna be that useful in large scale. They removed the ability to hotbar Hill Strike, which right now is a 20 DR buff that we use all the time to just proc. We can insta proc it and Q cancel it. So it's like a self buff we can get up at all time, the 20 DR. They're removing that ability, so the only way to actually proc Hill Strike, which is an ability nobody actually uses because it's a long, unprotected, and cumbersome animation.
Right.
The only way to proc it is after using Balance Strike. You're not going to be using Balance Strike and Hill Strike in any sort of group PvP. So you have to use Balance Strike, Hill Strike before a fight, which you can do to do sort of a self-buffing. But you could use it in a 1 versus 1 combo. And the other one, which is the debuff, it's on Solar Flare, which you could use in a large scale, but it's not going to really affect, because it's a debuff, you have to hit people with the Solar Flare, right? So if you're going into a group, it's probably just the first guy in the line you're going to hit with the Solar Flare. And so it's only one guy getting affected by it. But you could proc both of them in a 1 versus 1 scenario, and nothing's going to survive that. Nothing's going to survive. If this hit live right now, fucking nothing was going to survive a combo from Awakening Warrior with those debuffs.
So then the other thing is mobility, and this one's a little bit two-part. And this one, I am like half. I agree with one part and not necessarily the other, at least not until, like you're saying, we see the way other classes are, and if you compare just things to how classes are on live server. But mobility. So currently in Warriors movement, it really isn't super stamina heavy. You can go pretty far distances without draining your stamina. You can continuously move without draining your stamina. I guess like kind of within a fight, and I feel this too a lot when I play on even Sakuno, which I think Sakuno doesn't really use that much stamina. It can occasionally feel stamina starved, but if I'm fighting a warrior, like even on live server currently, I do feel like oh man, like I'm out of stamina and like I can't move, and it still feels like they're coming at me. And even on Awaken Hash, when I play Awaken Hash, I can feel like pretty stamina starved. Do you think that the mobility uses enough stamina? And then separately, the speed of it. So for me, the speed doesn't bother me as much, but they slightly sped them up, and with like the move speed buff, and I do think also a lot of people are forgetting kind of what Succession Warrior looked like even when it came out, because people forgot how their forward F worked. But how do you feel like the mobility is compared to other classes, speed-wise and also stamina consumption-wise, before and after the reworks?
I mean, not too much really changed with the rework. It just became like better. And I fully agree. You don't really have to worry about stamina as a warrior. If you know your different movements, abilities, and stuff like that, the only thing that's going to drain and kill your stamina is doing hit chase spamming. But a lot of times, so the movement is I mean, it's not like you're going to be using that infinite stamina movement spamming in a direct line in a fight, and there's some uses for it. Most people, if you watch like somebody like me play or Sethian, a lot of the times we like it's very cumbersome doing that constant movement stuff. So a lot of times we just don't really bother with it. But it should be. I think right now warrior movement is just cooldown based, not resource based. And the cooldowns aren't exactly that long on some of the stuff. But if you know especially like in a fight, if your stuff is on cooldown, like there's not a whole lot to do, and you can get stuck. But yeah, I think the resource management would be totally valid to add to warrior movement. I have no issues with that. On the speed side, which you were mentioning as well, I kind of agree. I don't think it's really an issue. Warrior is not exactly known as like whenever you're talking about broken movement, there's a lot of other classes that comes to mind beforehand, right? And how things look on paper and how it actually plays out is very different. Yeah.
What would you
Like-
do specifically to stamina? Like, where would you put stamina costs on Warrior's current movement if you had the choice?
I've given no thoughts to that. I literally have no idea. I
Yeah.
never really gave it any thought.
Maybe they could put it on your kicks, like on Musume.
No,
Yeah,
no.
200 stamina on our fucking kicks. So, let me ask a question in regards to that. So, like, I understand what you're getting at. It's more cooldown based right now. But the thing is, and I understand where you're saying it's not the fastest class. Obviously, like, Nova would be an example of a class that's extremely fast. It's, like, overly fast. But Warrior is able to maintain so much fucking pressure in, like, a 1v1 scenario. Mind you, this is in a small scale 1v1 type scenario that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It's
I
not so
see.
much in large scale, because large scale movement's great, but you know, if you're unprotected in your skills, you're gonna get fucked anyways. But the main thing is like Warrior just can maintain that level of pressure, and regardless of the stamina being a thing on your guys' costs. And like on top of that, you have your slows like ground smash and Gravedigger as well. When they buffed Gravedigger, so the debuff applies on the very first hit. It's just like it's really easy to land, especially with the AOE sizes, and it allows you to maintain that level of pressure like the whole time, and it really shuts down some fights. Um, it gives them complete and utter control, and you have two skills that can slow people down like that. So it's like it kind of seems a little much at times, at least from my experience. Obviously, I'm talking from the point of view of a class that actually has a really bad matchup versus a warrior. So, so yeah, what is your thoughts on that specifically?
Um, Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Like, how do you if it's cooldown based? Like, okay, well then would the argument be then increase the cooldowns between skills so that you actually have a little bit of downtime, or do you add a resource cost to help manage that, you know, and keep the cooldowns the same? Because the resource costs currently are just not enough, like with the amount of pressure that can be applied when you consider the slows and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think first we have to find out if it is wrong that warriors can apply that pressure. I mean, like just like it's a
Well, when you consider like, you know, 7-second grab and other options, I mean, Warrior isn't necessarily unable to CC people without their grab. They can definitely CC people just fine without their grabs. I've seen many Warriors do it.
yeah, but
As
no,
you
no,
know,
no. I
I've had
totally get you. I think,
a lot of
the question is
experience with
just
high tier
is
ones.
that wrong? And I don't know if it is. A lot of the movement stop as well. It has a lot of gaps. It's not protected. And like for example, if I'm talking like fighting a moose amoeba, right? Like I'm not gonna be catching them in a grab. Like they can run away, and a lot of the times they will. The way they win fights is by basically forcing me to keep up the high pressure, because that leaves gaps and openings in my movement, and then I get stop arrowed and killed, right? So That's what I mean. Does it have? Is it necessarily a wrong thing that warrior has high, like 1v1 pressure?
I wasn't necessarily
Right.
saying it's wrong. It was just, I just think there needs to be a balance between the amount of pressure. Like for example, Musamewa, like
Agreed.
obviously we have, issues with our stamina currently. So that's definitely a major reason why we have an in and out type play style. We can't commit fully to a fight until the death. We have to commit for short engagements and back off. We have a breathing period. And if you make a mistake versus a warrior and you get slowed, that breathing period does not ever exist anymore. So we have to basically essentially dodge two slows, which have large AoEs, and they can hit us during our chase and whatnot very easily. And this is not really complaining. I'm just mostly just trying to get a little dialogue with it. But yeah, so basically it comes down to like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Is that wrong? But at the same time, should there not be a limit? I don't know. I feel like
Well,
warriors can just go on in close quarter combat forever.
I think he said. I mean, he said earlier when I was mentioning the stamina that he agrees that there's not a stamina resource, and maybe there should be, or a stamina like you're not paying that much attention to it. There's not a whole lot of stuff. So I don't think he totally
Like,
disagrees.
I don't even.
Yeah, with that. I want to ask about just the differences in speed between Warrior Awakening and Succession. And then I want to after get Flannels take on the changes in comparison to with the two classes. But Warrior Succession Awakening, which of the two do you feel kind of got the most improvement, and do you think both of them will be viable after these changes? Because I saw a lot of feedback basically saying, well, Warrior Succession gets nothing, Warrior Awakening gets everything, so nothing's changed. Your thoughts on that?
No, I definitely think that Awakening Warrior got pretty much the best deal, but I like everything that happened was kind of like good thing for Succession as well. The only real issue with the Succession stuff is that it wasn't enough, right? But all the stuff that happened seems pretty good, and some of it is like should probably like is the Shield Strike should probably have been a more or less complete rework of the ability. So I think with the Succession War, they just didn't. They were almost at the finish line, but they missed a couple of steps. And I can go over like some specifics if you want. As
Please,
well.
yeah, please.
Okay, so let's talk about that first. One of my big issues, and again, this is one of the things I've talked to Kisito about this. We had a really, really nice conversation, and I really wanted his input on it. He's been spending a lot of time as well. And again, for anyone that doesn't know Kisito, he's the godlike warrior, the winner of both tournaments, the Succession Warrior player from EU. Really good player. One of the things that sort of, and it goes back to the war cry thing, it's a bit of an identity difference between Succession and Awakening. For Awakening Warrior, I think they nailed it by really fixing or buffing or whatever you want to call it. Reckless Blow. Reckless Blow used to be like the signature damage ability for Awakening Warrior, and it's back on the table for that. Really cool changes to it with the dashing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And with the change they did to Succession Warrior, I feel like they missed an opportunity, and they can still do this. But I would love the signature ability of Succession Warrior being Earth Trembles now. The jump ability, basically the ultimate ground smash, but for Succession version.
They did a good job with that animation.
It looks so cool.
It does.
And it's very unique, and it's potentially strong, right? So for ground smash, the absolute version has a CC on it, and I know that was one of the things the Prime version doesn't, right? So that was one of the things that I know Succession Warriors were looking for, is getting a CC, but it would be so much better adding some sort of CC on Earth Tremble, potentially even giving that one like T3 skill add-ons like Reckless has. Like Reckless is a somewhat protected ability with a knockdown and T3 abilities, T3 skill add-ons. And having that on Earth Tremble would be amazing. Like that would be the signature ability for Succession Warriors, and it would look cool, and it would be very identifiable. So you do the jump right, so you know, okay, there's a CC coming, there's damage and all that stuff, right? It's way easier to deal with than an ability that doesn't really have too much wind up, like Ground Smash. So I think like leaning more into that would really benefit, um, and give like Succession Warrior some more needed ways of engaging fights, but also catching people. I
Right.
think that was one of the big issues that also was mentioned, that Succession Warrior was very reliant on grabs, and instead of giving them other ways of catching people, they just reduced the cooldown, right?
Yeah, that
It's like, okay,
change.
so now
Oh,
you're still reliant, but you're reliant on it every 11 seconds instead of every 13 seconds, right?
yeah.
So I think that would go a very, very, very long way at making Succession Warriors happy. And I don't really think there's a whole lot of other issues other than Shield Strike,
Right.
maybe needing some love or rework.
Yeah, I've been saying this for a while, like Rezar and Ash, like I think that the cooldowns on all grabs in the game need to be increased. So I was pretty bummed out seeing them lower the cooldown on takedown in succession. Actually just made me sad.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's the right thing to do, especially because it's a protected grab. Protected grabs should have significantly higher cooldown.
Right.
Yeah.
Flannels, so I want to first ask you about the skills that you guys got. So they took a lot of your flows and just combined them into passives. So for example, you normally could use like Vine Knot into spacebar to do the little arrow shots, and now that's not really a skill on the tree. It's just part of the skill now, so you could just use it regardless. And then they added 3 new abilities, and I kind of wanted to get your opinion on how you feel about the 3 new abilities that you got in Awakening and how impactful they are, and kind of going one by one.
All right. So, unfortunately, I don't know their names because they're in Korean.
Yeah.
So, just gonna, I guess, describe them.
Okay.
So we have one. I'm gonna assume it is no collision. I haven't tested that, but I know it has moving hitbox. It's like 2 backflips. The first one is iframe. The second one is SA, and it's a disengage. It's really good. I like it. That added more so with everything else. Like before I go into these,
Okay.
I don't think any of these skills necessarily are, oh my god, this one skill's crazy.
Right.
It's more so everything combined
Right.
really
Right.
like helps the kid out. So we have that. It's I think it's good distance like paired with everything else. I think it's a really good skill. I mean, it's another iframe, right? Like how can you complain? It's gonna do well. It's gonna dodge grapples. It's gonna disengage, no collision, maybe reset the fight. Then we have our Shift E, which it's like this sort of non-lingering, just SA filler. It I think it I'm not sure if it necessarily does damage, but it looks good. It looks like another way, like, oh, say I'm in a group fight. Well, it's just another little bit of filler damage that I could throw out to maybe help secure a kill and help my team. It is also really good canceling into Windblade.
Mm-hmm.
The
Shift F.
yeah, the
Yeah.
recent I guess it's not recent, but like when they added every awakening, getting a new skill,
Right.
Windblade, you can cancel the first part by doing a previous skill, certain ones, and I feel like it's a good cancel into it. And then the last one is this sort of backflip kick frontal into a hit scan range stiffen.
Yeah.
But you can also cancel that too. Like if I do it out of either my dash, my wind step, or I do it out of the new skill, the iframe into SA backflips, you can cancel the first part, the kick up frontal, into the range stiffen.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think it's a good ability. Um, from what I heard, it does not do any damage, so
Right.
I'd prefer it to just lose the CC, stay unprotected, that's okay with me. Just let it kind of nuke, right? Because I would love a skill where, oh, let's say my teammate gets a CC, I'm dashing over. Well, I don't have to go right on top of the guy. Maybe I don't want to use the bow, but I could throw out this skill, and it's like sort of a like this bursty range awakening skill that does good damage.
Right.
I would like it to be that. Sort of like how I think it's seeds. I think it's called seeds on DK. They
Yeah.
raise their hands in the air. Yeah, like something like that would be really nice. But I think the skills are all super good. Um, it's just combined with everything else is what makes it so good, I
Right.
feel like.
Do you feel I asked this to Biceptimus earlier about the warrior because that one you heard a lot about, like, oh, they're gonna remove our cancels, and do you feel like they changed the overall feel of ranger? And did you lose cancels? Do you feel like the skill ceiling went down in any way with this rework?
I feel like it went up because now the class is more than oh, I'm in trouble, there's a guy on me. Let me spam cartwheel iframes. Uh, it's hard to truly say. One thing I am worried about is so we don't have mouse movement on Global Lab,
Right.
and with the reworks, there's the possibility of anything. I notice with a lot of these newer classes, um, it doesn't look like they can really mouse move much, and I feel like that's something that really it's really significant on Ranger,
Mm-hmm.
so it really elevates the gameplay because it just becomes you have all these like set space dashes, whether it be SA or iframe, but what really elevates it is, oh, at this point I'm gonna cut the distance. So you're really taking full control over your character, I wanna say. Uh so I think if mouse movement is still the same, like if they didn't take it off, then I think it'll be even like harder to play.
Right.
Maybe I think that Ranger already is a class that has like an infinite skill ceiling. It seems like there's always something that you could have done. Maybe swapped up earlier on in the fights that would have won. So we just have to see. Hopefully they do add mouse move back on Global Lab so I can actually see.
Yeah.
And if it is gone, I
I
mean,
yeah.
I know people hate mouse movement, but I think that it is extremely fun to use and can elevate gameplay and is skillful. So I would hope that they'd be willing to maybe, if they did remove it, add it back. We just have to see though.
With the passives all kind of like combining into the skills instead of being there, did anything change mechanically? Is there anything that used to work like with piercing wind or heavenly knot that don't work anymore? Or did it feel like everything kind of works the same way as before?
So one thing that does not work anymore is, do you know the sharp feather cancel, like the down smash spam?
Kinda, yeah, with the kick.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they came out with a new skill called bypassing wind, which now kinda in that when you do those, it overwrites charging wind. So that was one of our down smashes, and you can't do that anymore. But then there's also this, it's called I it's just called like tearing arrow cancels. You're
Yeah.
kind of just shooting this little bit of chip damage, and you completely can't do that now because of that. So they took away that. I don't think it was on purpose. I feel like it was more of an oversight adding a new skill. Um, then
Yeah.
there's like I feel like a lot of these things are not necessarily intentional. It's just that they did change so much that they might have missed out or they might have missed it. But yeah, we can't necessarily do like the down smash spam anymore or the tearing arrow cancels.
Right. Um, when you compare what you saw with Ranger to what you saw with Warrior, because it seems like most people look at the two, and I mean, at least from what I've seen on different Discords and Reddit and different streams, a lot of people feel like Ranger didn't get much and Warrior did. Is that how you feel?
I actually feel the opposite. I think
Okay,
that
I was just about to say.
yeah, looking at like if you actually look at the reworks, I feel like Warrior had a really nice kit. Everyone loved it. It had all the cancels. It was fun to play. Like they loved their class. That's why they were so outraged when they said they were going to take away animation cancels
Right.
because of player fatigue. So, um, but looking at it, like it seems like they got a couple things, but mostly they just got their damage cranked out. But Ranger, I feel like Ranger got I mean, it got three. How can you? I don't know how people can say that. It got three new skills. It got a bunch of CDs lowered. I feel
Right.
like it did get so much to help its kit, and I think that's kind of good in a sense. Like a lot of these classes, like it's reworks for everybody, but there are classes that are in a good spot. And do you really want or need a rework? Like your class is already in a good spot, even if it is older. Maybe get like quality of life, but I don't know. We have to see.
And fancy new animations. What about you, Biceptimus?
Yeah.
Do you feel
Yeah, I just wanted to. It was kind of fun. Like, I was streaming yesterday when the changes was happening, and unfortunately, I don't have a account. But I spent the morning with a friend that was on there, and we tested out and all that. And I constantly had people asking me like, "Oh my god, is it true that Ranger got nerfed?" It's like, what? So I think it's way more like a perception thing. It happens all the time, right? You notice one thing, and you latch onto that. So the iframe nerf or the removal of the spammable iframes, right? People see that and it's like, okay, well, that's a thing that was strong and it's removed or nerfed now, aka the class got nerfed. And then every time I was asking, well, what else happened? It's like crickets, fucking
yeah.
crickets.
Yeah.
I think that's why people have that perception. It's literally because they either don't play the class right and it just spreads, or maybe they latch onto that one thing because they don't like that thing. And so that's the one they're talking about. And all the good stuff. I mean, we do it as well, right? When we're talking about feedback, and we're not going to sit there and spend 20 minutes patting PA on the back and be like, oh, this is the great stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, this needs fixing and all that, right? But this rework, I mean, we're spending a lot of time talking about the good stuff as well, right? But in general, it's always like, what's the bad things? Let's work on this and fix it. So I totally understand why that is the case, but there's no doubt about it, man. Ranger got a way bigger overhaul, a lot more changed, and I think it's gonna be pretty good. A lot of the
Yeah.
things that people are worried about or maybe don't like, and I know a lot of like on the other end of it, right, with warriors, a lot of people have been latching on to that accuracy stuff, and it's basically like you latch onto one thing. It's like, oh, this is cranked, but we don't know the context yet of a lot of those changes as well.
Right. That's kind of how I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, Flannels, on this, but so Wailing Wind got its damage reduced, but it was mechanically changed. So before it's one of these skills similar to like maybe a Sin Splitter, or like a skill where it's doing its damage as it's traveling from point A to point B. So it's not doing all of its damage on a hit, it's ticking multiple times. And they changed the damage so the number is lower, but they said now no matter where you get hit, it always does the same damage. So my guess, at least my understanding of that, means that even though the number is lower, it's going to basically be doing the same damage as before. It's just going to be consistent. So I think when people see that, they're like, well, we got PvE nerfs, and now it's going to be worse. And it's just, I don't know, like some of that stuff kind of, I think, throws people for a loop when they see the numbers being a little bit lowered, when they feel like they should be getting buffed. But yeah, like you're saying, Biceptimus, it's like a lot of context is kind of important on how you can use it. And I think the Hilt Strike one, while I still think that accuracy buff is unnecessary, like, yeah, even in the context of a 1v1, if I'm a Kuno and a warrior's just going to randomly Hilt Strike in the middle of our fight, I'm probably going to catch him. But I want to ask Rezlar and Nayashe, starting with Nayashe, but between the two classes, which one do you feel got like the most changes, and which one, I guess, like, or do you feel like they're relatively similar? Or...
I mean, from what I've seen, Like I had the same kind of like perception that they were talking about earlier. Like everyone, mostly considered Ranger getting the dick into the stick, so to speak. But apparently that's not the case at all. I honestly, to be fair, I didn't really look too much into the Ranger ones because Ranger hasn't really been a class I'm concerned with per se. Um,
Yeah, it's not busted as
it,
shit like Warrior, huh, Nyashi?
well, it's not that. It's
Yeah, old
it's
tricks with the e-buff movement on and being like, look at this is cranes.
yeah.
I see how it is.
Well,
see how
I
it is.
mean, so it's something I said for you guys last week when you guys were asking my opinion on the Warrior thing. I think Warrior has the potential, like it has such a big potential to get overtuned really easily if they do it wrong. And it's it's the class I have the most concern with about that. I don't really have that concern when it comes to Ranger. I think Ranger can definitely, you know, get stronger for sure if they, overtune some things, but I don't think it'll be like so overbearing um, that you can't get around it in some cases. I think that's mostly what my concern was. Um, I like the. I mean, honestly, the Warriors animations look flashier. So, so
Well,
but yeah, as far as like what was actually done for the kids, I mean, based on what Flannels was talking about, it definitely seems like Ranger got a lot more for what they needed, or at least helping towards what they need than what Warrior did. But Warrior definitely got some things that they needed as well, such as AoEs and whatnot. So, um,
Reslar?
Was it more changes? We got more changes? Because
Yeah,
if it's
well, like,
more changes, it's obviously Ranger.
well, to you, which one like had the most impact, or did anyone get shafted, or do you think that they did a pretty good job?
No. So the second that I saw people crying on Reddit that Ranger is dead and like fuck this company, I was like, all right, so Ranger's gonna be fine. Because like anytime
That's so
Reddit
true.
starts crying about how things are dead, or like, oh, this company can never do things right, dead game, it's like, all right, so that's definitely an overreaction and it's gonna be fine. And I'm glad that now, like, because I don't know shit about Rangers, so I haven't been paying attention at all, like, to the notes and what people specifically have been saying. But now I have Flannels over here saying, like, yeah, no, the changes, like, when you put them all together are actually really good. It's like, okay, so my suspicions were completely correct. Everyone's completely overreacting. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think they both got pretty good changes. Again, I don't know shit about Ranger, but just from what Flannels has been talking about, I trust his opinion more than people on Reddit personally. So it sounds like they got some really nice changes. I'm personally more excited for the Warrior one, so I'm a bit biased. Because I used to play Warrior, so I don't know. I want to say Warrior, but also I'm a bit biased and I don't know shit about Ranger, so probably not a good question for me.
um, Flannels, what does Succession Rangers still need, and what does Awakening Rangers still need? Like, so this is phase 1. They said they're going to listen to feedback. It's going to be, I believe in their words, that it was going to be a 2-part thing. They were going to release one update, get some feedback, release another update, get some feedback, and then release a third and final update for each of the class reworks. What are some of the things that you feel are still missing from both of the kits?
So for Succession, it's well, all of this, it's naturally really hard to say because we don't know the other rework, so it's more so, I feel like it's more so of a, you have to really wait until you see the other classes, because maybe, hypothetically, Ranger is the best class, it's amazing. Well, then it won't necessarily need anything, right? But assuming that other classes get really good things and Ranger needs a bit more, I would say Suck Ranger, there's definitely an argument to be made about putting the ES spam back on, or just in general, more movement and survivability, because it can do a bunch of damage, but like it is extremely unprotected, and squishy and easy to die. So maybe having something more as a last resort line of defense could help. With Awakening, I would say damage. Just minor things. Like I feel like our actual kit itself, like the CC threat and the mobility, and the kiting, and we now have something that not a lot of people talk about. All of our SA dashes, like Breezy and Rushing Wind, are also moving hitboxes. So if you really put it in perspective, the Awakened Ranger is going to be moving around, and I feel like if they're playing well, they're going to be extremely hard to grapple because the hitboxes are all moving, and it's not necessarily the most easy thing. I would say just more damage. That's about it. At least for right now. Maybe it could change in the future if the other
Right.
stuff, if the other classes do come out, like oh their reworks are really sick and really good, Ranger's lacking. Then yeah, it'll be like maybe we should get the ES back to kind of help or more damage here. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you feel like with
Problem.
uh,
There's not
what
enough information out yet.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do you feel like with the Awakening, like their philosophy, it seems to be they're loading all the damage into Awakening, and then the pre-Awakening is more like utility and CC and stuff. Are you okay with that direction? Like if the Awakening damage feels good in large scale and stuff, or do you prefer it being in the absolutes?
Well, I would if they want to make Awakening be the really hard hitting one, then that's fine. But I think the absolutes are so irrelevant that I feel like they do have to buff it in a sense. Like it doesn't I'm not saying yeah, I should be two-shotting people with shotgun on my Awakened Ranger, but I think it should do fair damage to the point where they do like notice my presence in a sense.
Right.
Oh, another thing I want actually is I want I have an idea on I don't know if you were gonna go into this later, but I have an idea on a new kind of skill rework that I think would be really good. Is do you know dagger protection? I guess probably not. It's just every class has it. It's that one useless skill, no matter what it is. You're like, why is this on my kit? It's unprotected. It does no damage. It's just that's you immediately lock it and never use it.
Yeah.
I would like them to rework that to be this kind of option where you have three different variants. One of them is like, or two of them are like these stun traps. Maybe you could place it on the ground. One of them will CC, the other one will slow and debuff, but then the third option will give you sort of this small little heal, similar to how Archer has to help sustain. Not necessarily a Valk or a Wizard heal, but just something a little extra, like maybe 600 HP to help keep you in the fight. Um, I think that would be really nice. I think that would benefit the class a lot.
Are you I saw this mentioned a few times. Are you bothered that there wasn't any real change to the passive? They removed the weird mana recovery on your auto attacks and while sprinting. Um, are you bothered that there's not any other passive changes?
Um, No, I think they're gonna add something in the future. It's just a matter of what they're gonna add.
Yeah.
So yeah, we
Yeah, and
just
they
have
still, I mean, they still haven't added your unique passive, right?
Right. They didn't do that for
So
anyone yet. Yeah, that weird
yeah, so
class.
there's definitely still like, I mean, there's probably still a lot of changes to come. I mean, at least if you take what they say as what
yeah.
they're gonna do and keep reworking, but for sure, at least in the passive department, they got to do some more stuff because they got to give everyone unique passes.
I think it's very unfinished right now, and there's definitely more to change. The skill icons, they don't even have pictures yet, like to
Yeah.
put it into
It
perspective.
looks so weird.
Yeah, it's like it's completely new. There's still so much to do. I think that we did get the passive removed. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get compensation. I did give them some cool ideas for it. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what they turn it out to be.
What about you, Biceptimus? So you kind of talked about it with Succession, but is there anything more that Awakening Warrior needs, or that you would change to improve it? And then also, is there anything you feel like is missing with the lack of passive changes?
No, I mean the passive for warriors are fine, right? So of course the unique passive, I think it's gonna be that one is gonna be more of like a fun one.
Yeah.
The way I understood it, it's
Yeah.
not really a big deal. Um, and warrior passive are fine. The big thing missing, and it still is the big thing missing. It's a large scale disengage ability for warriors, and I mean, Succession could use that as well. They kind of have one now with Earth's Tremble, since they can like leap somewhat out of a fight as well. Um, but that would be the big one. That would be the one thing missing for PvP, right? I think in PvE they pretty much nailed it for both Awakening and Succession.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a whole lot to change in PvE now. For Succession, I do know that, like, maybe, especially seeing the accuracy modifiers that Awakening just got, maybe something for accuracy, either just higher base rates or something, would be very, very, very nice for Succession.
Right.
But yeah, something like that.
So overall, let's look at more like a general sense. Overall, with everything that they did with Warrior and everything that they did with Ranger, do you guys like the direction that they're going? Like, do you feel good that they're gonna make like I don't know, meaningful and good changes to future classes, or does this have you more worried about the other reworks? I guess starting with you, Biceptimus.
Jump straight on that one. Anyone else playing a class that's gonna get reworked, I would be excited. As a warrior, and especially now hearing Flannels, I'm a bit like you guys as well. I don't know that much. I was really, really excited to have Flannels on here and hear him talk about it, because I've heard all the same things you guys have. But as a warrior, right, they pretty much nailed everything and completely demolished any concern that we had about losing the uniqueness of Awakened Warrior. And the special feel of Awakened Warrior with those animation councils and all that, I think is probably going to be the hardest class to do the reboot on. While like basically raising the floor but not lowering the ceiling, keeping it feeling like playing a warrior, but also reducing the requirements of the FPS and all that stuff, right? And making it function in 2021. And they nailed it. We can talk about numbers all day and if it does too much damage, etc., etc. But the feel of the class, it's a warrior still, and that makes me extremely excited for seeing what they got in store for the other classes.
Flannels, how about you?
I'm still
Oh.
terrified of the rework, because I actually think Zerker is going to be the hardest class to rework. Because I
Yeah.
think Zerker is in such a weird place where, with Q buff and with Seismic, it's incredibly powerful, but the second that you nerf or change either one of those things, it becomes absolute dog shit. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that, and I am very concerned.
Okay, Surger is a special beast, stuff for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Zerkers are, I mean, I think a lot of them are really hard. Like, I don't know, like I'm sitting here trying to imagine what they could do to DK, and if Dark Knight or Sork or Lawn got the same list of changes that Ranger and Warrior got, I'm just like, oh my god. Or Ninja. What about you, Flannels? Like, do you feel good or bad about the direction they're going, and what you might see with the other reworks?
I love it. I've already spent 14 hours on G-Lab just moving around, having fun. It's fun to play. I think it's good for the game, right? Because a lot of stuff is old and outdated, and I think it's good to try and make everyone's kit updated and relevant and have a place.
Yeah.
I think that if I look at, apart from like the minor little things like that one heal and everything, which hopefully they do add in the future, but like a lot of the problems, I think they solved them. Like they did it extremely well.
Are there any classes that are going to get reworked? Any of the 17 that you're a little bit like, that could be way too good?
Yeah, there's definitely there's a couple
Anyone specific? Which ones?
like Sork, Ninja, Lon,
Yeah. So actually, let's ask the same question that we talked about
Tamer.
last week.
Oh my God, Tamer.
Flannels. What do you think is going to be the strongest class post rework?
I've been saying this. I swear, I'm gonna hate it too. I swear that bladers are gonna be the strongest. For whatever
Yeah.
I,
was
s-
gonna
I
say-
swear they're gonna get they're gonna get such a cranked out good kit, and then they're also
No.
gonna have. I swear they're gonna
Yep.
have they're gonna have block break too.
Why
Yep.
does Nyashi have to be having computer
I
issues
know,
right now? He
right?
needs to be here for this.
I
We
I
are
actually
going
think
back to
I think
having
that
used a Stormtrooper every seats.
yeah I think that bladers are gonna be very strong somehow.
And so you agree, Biceptimus?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Bladers? Interesting. So
Yeah,
just for context, so I said ninja, Nyashi said warrior, and then what did you say, Frosty, last week?
God, I don't remember. Did I write it down?
Didn't you write it down somewhere? I thought you wrote it down somewhere.
Let me see.
Check and see if you wrote it down somewhere. And then I have another question actually for both of you. And Flannels, you just kind of touched on this, but that we've been talking a lot about like a balance and whatnot for obvious reasons. But the question that I wanted to ask is, do the changes make the classes more fun? And Flannels, I know you just said that you've put hours and hours into it, just enjoying it. So I think obviously your answer is that it is more fun.
Yeah, it's definitely it's fun to play. It's like it's just refreshing too because you play the class for so long and then finally oh there's new abilities, maybe there's a new cancel to learn. There's just so much more to discover now.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun doing that. I feel like a lot of people they come to this point when playing. It's like, oh, well, I love my class, but I can only improve on maybe specific matchups. Like there's nothing to actually like learn and mechanically progress. And I think that it completely is changed now. I think there's so much to learn, so much to be discovered.
Yeah, I don't know
All
if
these new cancel potentials.
I don't know if I have it written down right. I can't remember what I said. I feel like I
Oh,
must have
no.
said Sork, just because that one is just the first one that pops up in my mind. But yeah, I'm with Flannels on that too. Like, even separate from everyone's fear of like, well, they're gonna make classes too strong. Like, I feel like sometimes people need to be reminded, like, it's yeah, we have these like fun competitive tournaments that PA hosts, but this isn't League of Legends. We're not in Worlds. We're not on professional teams. Like, we're literally playing a fantasy MMO. And if our characters are really strong and fun to use, I think that that's okay. I think people get really, really hung up on the balance and like the fear, and like people act like if this changes, it's just the worst thing ever and it ruins everything. And it's like, I don't know. They've been doing an all right job with balancing recently, and I think that I think your class getting changed makes it really exciting, because it's not even just like your class is going to feel new and fresh and with the new animations and all that stuff, but I cannot wait, because they're releasing everything on the same day. I cannot wait to go into Battle Arena and have like everybody on every class show me all this cool stuff that we didn't discover on Global Labs, and like learn matchups and how to deal with different things. I cannot wait for that. Like, I think that's super fun. I had that experience and that feeling when Rabombs first came out, which I know that was before your time, Flannels, but I don't know, Rez and you and Biceptimus, if you remember, but when Rabombs and Absolutes came out, and at the time I was maining Sork, and I just remember, like, I did not want to leave BA. Like, I was so obsessed with the way Absolutes and Rabombs worked. Like, I was stuck in BA like all day, every day. It was so much fun. And I'm excited for the reworks, because I think I'm going to get that feeling again. Biceptimus,
I just got a second heal. That was all I got with that.
Biceptimus, do the warrior changes make it more fun to you? Like, I mean, I know
Yes.
you haven't been able to play it, but just from what you've seen and what
No.
you've heard from like other warriors.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Not only is it going to be straight up more fun, it's also going to be less frustrating, and I think that's a big deal. Again, we talk a lot about PvP balance and stuff like that, but I think we have to also realize that like 90%, if not way higher, of the BDO player base don't do any PvP. They don't care about it. Most people won't like duel for spot. They'll just swap or whatever, right? It's and another thing about like the fun, it's fun playing a class. I love playing war, and I grind on it. I play it all the time, but it's not really fun knowing that I'm doing like 50 or half of the trash that say a Sockline is doing, right? So I think that's gonna bring a lot of fun as well, trying to balance out PvE between the classes and make them actually function good, so you don't feel like you're grieving yourself playing a class that you enjoy playing, right?
Yeah.
Anash, are you back?
Yeah. Jesus, my PC.
Okay, can we get a replay on what was said earlier now that Nayashi is back here? Because I really need to get his reaction
Yeah,
to that news.
So
my bad, guys.
No worries.
PC's being a pain
No,
in the
you're
ass.
good. You're good.
So here, I'll recap real quick. So we were asking everyone kind of what class worries them the most going into the rest of the reworks, and I'm leaning Sork. Reslar saying Zerker because he
Yeah.
because he doesn't think like there's a lot to Zerker and it could easily go one way or the other. But both Flannels and Biceptimus agree that they think that Bladers are going to get the most changes and that they're going to be nuts. Your thoughts,
Yeah.
Nayashi, and which class kind of has you the most worried going forward?
I mean, I understand that worry for sure, because Bladers are currently in a really bad spot with the meta, so I could see it them maybe doing a little bit too much, because they have to manage how our mobility is, which our mobility, no doubt, is strong for how it was back in the day, but not with how all the new classes are, and a lot of classes can keep up with us. Slows are a problem, so it really depends on how they go about it. And also our damage is kind of lackluster in comparison to the newer classes for sure. So if they do too much, maybe it can be a problem for the Bladers.
Well, and
Um,
Biceptimus,
but-
you specifically pointed out as a concern for you that they would get a bunch of block breaking skills.
No, it's not a concern. I actually I got kind of mad when Corsair got block breaking because I've been crusading for Moose and Maver getting that for a while. I actually think that that's one of the things that would
yeah,
actually help and distinguish Moose and Maver in also group fights and stuff like that. Having either increased damage versus blocks or giving like a block debuff or something like that. So I'm
Yeah.
actually fully expecting it.
there's a good chance that Corsair was like a preview of that skill to see how would
Yeah.
the community reacts to it. I was kind of thinking that when Corsair came out and they showed that, I'm like, that is something we fucking need. If they're not going to give us a grab, which I don't want grabs, block break would be fucking perfect. The problem is, I think the way Corsair's block lock is just cancer. I do not like that at all.
I like the idea of the block break, the targets guard -%. It's just that I know like a lot of people were like, well, every non-grab class during the reworks is probably going to get the block break, and that would be a miserable experience for everybody because that would just be too much, just random everyone's block is being broken like instantly, and it disables a lot of classes. But if it's on a couple, it's not so bad, but I think they cannot add the block recovery prevention on any other class. And I also think like Corsair needs the Spiral Soak one, in my opinion, just removed on Spiral Soak. Like I don't know why it has a 15-second block lock. It's completely unnecessary and debilitating for a lot of people.
It just ruins some classes that rely so heavily on guard. Like my class isn't really tanky at all, so it doesn't matter really how much DP I throw on that fucker. And I can't block, then I'm basically just shafted.
I honestly feel like Musume was maybe the only class that I would be like I could agree with putting a block break mechanic on. Honestly, I don't think like I know that there's other classes out there that don't have grabs that are gonna say like no we also need. I don't think so. I feel like those two are probably it.
Um,
I do wanna, if I can, like,
Yeah.
why I think that bladers are gonna be really good. It's because
Please.
they're pretty straightforward to buff. I think with the rework here of specifically Ranger, right? PA's shown they're not afraid of removing things that are borderline like broken or
Yeah.
unfun or hard to balance, like the spam.
I mean,
But
it
I
took
believe the
fucking
down
years.
smash combos have been nerfed or removed as well to some extent. Is that correct?
Well, they
Not
actually
completely.
they made down smash spam easier. It's just that yeah, it's you just spam shift R and B now and you can do down smash spam really
Okay.
really fast and really good, but it's more so of a like probably something that they miss, like an oversight to get rid of the cancel.
Uh, okay, so then my point don't hold up as well. But my point is well that if there's some like mechanic or stuff that is super hard to then balance, then I don't think they're gonna be afraid of changing it, like with Surgers and Sorks and stuff like that, and
Right.
then compensate in a different area and just make sure that it feels good to play and is fun to play, right? Without having to rely on some gimmick, buggy, weird thing.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it was something that wasn't really changed too much? I think Ranger got a couple like tweaks on like the camera and stuff on it, but do you guys think that some of the rebombs need to be changed on your classes, starting with you, Flannels?
Yeah, so I think this is a problem for a lot of classes. The third bombs are cool, but you don't really use them and they're a little underwhelming. Uh, those are the main ones that I would like to be buff. And actually, one of them, they were changed. Um, one for the worse, one for the better, kinda, in a sense. But so we have the frontal AoE KD, which was previously it was instant, it was hit scan, so it would instantly come out. Now it has this weird delay, so you have to shoot, and then you have to sit there. You can't like I guess C swap, otherwise the arrows just won't go off and it won't CC. It just completely cancels out that rebomb. Um, I would like to see that get buffed because when you do go, I think it's very strong. Like it's a protected KD in a sense, but it feels so locked in and clunky and like you're just like restricted and trapped once you do go inside of it. I think they should add like cancels and nice quality of life on that. And then the other one is it's movement. So it's frontal into SA and when landing, because it's like a distance, right? Let's say like maybe 80-ish% through it, it would become unprotected and you would chain it into something called riding the wind.
Mm-hmm.
But now you don't have to do that. It's just fully protected. It's just fully protected all the way throughout. So I think that is really good. But I think that they should maybe look at lowering the cooldown slightly or just something
It's 20
to
seconds, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe to 15 to help match the other cooldown. I'm not entirely sure. It's hard to say, but just something to help promote more use of it. And then I think that's it because you have I think the other bombs are in a good spot. Like Squall Shot is for PvE. A lot of people like that.
Mm.
Tearing Shot is obviously PvP, range stun. I don't think anybody's necessarily gonna complain about a range stun CC that does good damage. Or not good, but decent damage, 100% crit rate. And then Roaring Arrow is it's slow, but it's KD spam, so I feel like it's really good. Say you're holding a castle choke. If there's a ranger just spamming a rowing arrow, especially when they're going to start looking to cap resistances in Siege. Imagine if you're just running through the choke of a castle and you have 2 or 3 rangers just spamming KDs over and over.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and then Fury Arrow is obviously extremely good. I can't complain about that.
Yeah, dude. Saved your PvP career. I'm kidding. Biceptimus, your
It's
thoughts
not
on
wrong.
your thoughts on the warrior Raboms and if they need some changing.
Yeah, they're like it's there's no choice, right? You got your spear and you got your shield side, and then the new Rabam thingy is like, who the fuck cares? So 2 out of the 6 different thingies are more or less useless, and the shield side is cool, but they should really fix the protections on it. So like a lot of stuff would be very, very nice. Just give some choice, give some different things. Everyone is using the, for instance, spear, and everyone is using shield side. And I've actually tried to play around with the new Rabams,
Mm-hmm.
the 2 attacks, the counter thingies. They're just not worth it. They don't deal enough damage in PV and PvP. One deals a fair amount of damage in PvP, actually. It has a very low damage reduction in PvP, but it's just not enough, and it's just a damage ability. It doesn't do anything.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah,
they could use some love, but it's not a big deal.
I hope so much for it on Kuno, because like ours are weird because they all have a little bit of value in what they can do, but their cooldowns don't make any sense. The only one that obviously does is like Oni Shadow, the concealment one. That cooldown makes sense, and obviously that one's super powerful. But it's funny on Kuno, like Heart Snatch is a 30-second cooldown, and it's like just an unprotected, really low damage ability. And then Assassin's Trail. I can't remember the last time I saw anyone use Assassin's Trail. And then the new one is also another low cooldown, low damage, just like scoop back super armor skill that has a 30-second cooldown. But they're all 30-second cooldown, so it's like, okay. I hope that those get changed a little bit, especially for PvE. Yeah, I don't know. Rez, are you hoping any of your Zerker bombs get changed? I know yours are fairly useful.
Yeah, so Zerker bombs are pretty universally like decided on, I guess, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Like in each slot of the 2 bombs, there's a really good one and then a kind of useless one. So like you have your PvE spin, and then your other option is the Stampede, which isn't super useful anymore. Like you can still kind of use it as like a gimmick or to catch people off guard with it sometimes in 1v1s, but that's about it. More of a gimmick than anything. Then you have your heal, which you like basically have to take. The other option is Acts of Destruction, which is kind of fun, kind of neat, but useless. And then your newer bombs, you just have to take fuck, what's the name of this skill? Frenzied Tyrant, because it's your pull skill. So
Right.
you use it for pulling in PvE. So I don't know. They could change like the other ones, like the bad ones, like Acts of Destruction and Feral Stampede and whatnot, and make those a little bit better. So it's actually like a choice. But yeah, right now it's like very not a competition between the Raboms. So like the good ones are fine and they don't need to be changed, but maybe the bad ones need to be buffed.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there I'm trying to think, is there anything else with the reworks that you guys wanted to get off your chest before we move on?
Yes.
All right, what's up?
Thank God they listened and changed charging thrust. Oh my lord.
Changed what?
Charging thrust.
Oh yeah, where you don't
Oh my
stun
God.
yourself at the end.
Yeah, and also actually having protect front guard on the entire ability. Like that was such a fucking massive load on my back, just getting wiped away. That it was so great getting. It's been just oh my lord. I love it.
Flannels, anything else you want to add about the Ranger rework?
No. I'm pretty happy with it so far. Again, we have to kind of see how the other ones are, then go from there. I hope that they continue to like listen and take feedback
Mhm.
and just try to make it so every class has a place, right? Like I don't think any one class should be over the top broken. I think like it'd be nice for just everybody to be able to feel like, oh, I'm fighting, let's say I'm fighting a sage. Well, now I have stuff to do or to kill him. Like my kit, I just don't feel like I'm insta dead and I just automatically lose this matchup. And that goes for any class, right? Just hopefully going more towards like balance and being able to always feel like you can counterplay and do something. I think it's good. Um, I'm looking forward to more reworks.
Um, Separately from the class stuff, starting with you, Flannels, how do you guys feel about the direction of sort of the quality of life changes? Because we've been getting, probably right when PA took over, we've been getting a lot of little stuff in the game, like the search bar added to your characters, or them allowing us to add more stuff into the family inventory or whatever. I don't know. There's just like a bunch of little things. The map, the loot scroll change that's coming, the ghillie change, that sort of stuff. Do you like the direction they're going with all of that? And is there anything in there that you don't like, Flannels?
No, I think it's all good. It's just quality of life. It makes the game feel a lot easier. I know a lot of people they would spend hundreds of hours grinding for like the infinite pot and it's just you don't know when you're gonna get it. It could take 50 hours, it could take 500. So like adding things like that, being more accessible, I think it's better. Overall, it's like healthier for the game. It makes it feel more so like you can see the progression clearly like in your face rather than it's an infinite grind and you're just waiting for a tiny little RNG drop that could take forever.
Yeah. What about FSR? Have you messed around with FSR at all? The new high fidelity AMD thing to play in remastered?
No, I only play in Opti
Yeah,
mode.
okay. You're basically a warrior in a ranger
Yeah,
disguise, dude.
pretty much, bro. It's all about the FPS for me.
Yeah. What about you, Biceptimus? The kind of the direction PA's been going in general, and with quality life stuff, and how do you like the FSR, or have you messed around with it at all?
Let's start with the FSR because that's a quick one. I tried it out. It seems good. Whatever. It's blurry. It seems good. Like it's just a net positive, right? If people want to use it and it's better for them, then it's a good thing. And if you don't want to use it, then nothing changed. So net positive, it's great. It looks okay in some settings, etc. It's too blurry for me, so I'm not super hyped on it. But the changes in general, I love it. And I'm a bit of a masochist in this game, so I'm always extremely concerned when it comes to the quality of life taking I don't know how to say it in English, but like being too much, becoming too much quality of life and
Mhm.
turning into World of Warcraft, right? Where you just basically make everything too convenient and too straightforward. So it's just it takes you out of it. But I think all the changes they're doing, all the improvements, all the actual quality of lives have been spot on. I'm very, very happy with them so far. And every time something new like this is added, I'm just excited because, yeah, I fully agree with all the changes, direction as well. Um,
Dude, you don't
yeah,
just
pretty much.
gloss over the FSR thing, dude. This has been amazing change, all right? How dare you? Reslar, what about you? Just kind of overall, I know we kind of talk about it every week, but now seeing like with the reworks out and the loot scroll change, and we finally got the ghillie change on our server, and it's funny to laugh at all the people that says unknown adventure above their head. It just looks funny. Your feelings on kind of the direction they've been going?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been talking about this, weekly podcast, so we cover it as it all comes out. But yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to do. They seem to have been focusing a lot more on QOL. I think there's still a lot more stuff that they need to or should do. Starting with the goddamn Marnie's fuel. Marnie's Fuel that costs $10 to add a fucking accessory that doesn't cost any silver to your item copy tag gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start with that. But yeah, I think
Fairy
it's
reroll.
I think it's good. I think it's good. They should keep going in this direction, keep taking community feedback, and and just keep working on it. You know.
Yeah. No, actually, I know you're taking a.
Sorry for barging in there real quick,
No,
but
go ahead.
like one of the biggest things that the Reds was just like fairy rerolls. Like if they're going to make the potion, which I do agree with, is not like a treasure item. It's an actual part of your character progression now. It's so good.
Right.
It's so amazing, especially later on. They should also make it way more accessible to reroll your fairy skills. Let us have 2 fairies, so you can release a fairy that has shit skills without risking like having a worse fairy. Put the reroll, the skill rerolls, and in the loyalty shop, stuff like that. Having a fairy with the potion, and along with an infinite potion, that's more than just like a quality of life. That's a game changer, and that should be more accessible. I think that's the next big one they really should be looking at.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like if you just had a second, if you could have 2 fairies, it would literally let you roll the skills and buy the weapons and do that whole thing without ruining like your existing fairy that's like decent or whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Yeah, that would actually
Yep.
be super nice. Is there anything content wise? I know they delayed a bunch of stuff because they wanted to focus on the reworks. Is there anything content wise that you really hope that they stick to their promise and release? Starting with you, Biceptimus.
Just go Flannels first.
The what?
He's eating, dude. Go Flannels first.
Oh, Flannels first. Okay, Flannels.
Respect the man's dinner.
Is there any content upcoming or that was coming that maybe got delayed or they said would still come or whatever that you're really hoping comes out in the future?
I think we could all guess what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I'm with
Rank
you.
PvP.
Yeah.
Please just give me rank cubable PvP with a leaderboard. I'm just so excited. Maybe I'm too excited for everything they said. It just sounds so good and so fun.
I agree. It would be dude, just like logging into BDO and being like, I'm just gonna hop into a 3v3, I have time for one real quick and then I gotta go, or hopping into a 1v1 real quick and having a ladder and looking at where different people are in different classes. I know a lot of people, I've said this a few times in the past, and I'm curious your opinion on this, Flannels, but I know a lot of people feel like 1v1 is really imbalanced between a lot of classes, but the thing that makes a 1v1 ladder really, really fun and interesting, even with imbalance, is that some people overcome those imbalances and you see them go to the top, and I think that's a really, really cool thing. Like, I think that people would be surprised to see, prior to reworks, like if we already had arenas, that there would be a random wizard at the top and a random whatever class that people feel isn't very good at 1v1, because sometimes people just like overcome that kind of stuff. So that's why I really wish that there were arenas, both 3v3 and 1v1s, because I don't know, rankings are really fun to look at. Queuing up, having something that you're like working towards and can brag about is really cool.
I think a big thing with that is they're adding the different forms, like the 1v1, 2v2. I'm pretty sure they're gonna want to add 3v3, and then the like really big one is the 10v10 it's made out to be. So I feel like you have all these different aspects, like, oh, maybe my class isn't that good in 1v1, but it's really good in 10v10, or it's really good in 3v3, and it's not like they're gonna force you to do the 1v1s if you don't want to or if you don't enjoy it. It's just there's so much different variety, and I just can't wait. It's gonna be so fun. And also with the reworks, I think that if they do a good job, like, I don't think it's almost impossible to do to perfectly balance a game.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really hard to do. Like,
It's never been done.
yeah, it's just that yeah, it's just that obviously the closer that they can get with all these reworks, the better for it. And I think it'll make the game healthier. And I know people they have different opinions on the meta, like, oh, they may not like SA trade heavy meta. They may like it. They may not want more frontals in the game. or so on. But at least now it's more so of a lot of the classes that were older and did feel useless or out of place. I guess the idea is that no matter what the vision of the devs are for the game and for how it plays out, that you feel like you can actually like do something, right? Like your class has a place, and I think that's big.
Yeah, and I don't know what you're talking about, Reslar. It's never been done. Everyone's favorite game they played right before BDO was perfectly balanced.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
League of Legends?
Yeah, League of Legends has never had any balance issues. Blade and Soul didn't. Terra never
No,
did.
actually, you know what? That brings up a good point. You want to know what game was perfectly balanced?
Which one?
Anthem.
No, it wasn't. It actually wasn't. People were complaining about balance in that game all the time.
No, like, but
Tournament,
legit,
the only balanced game.
people need to realize, like, and I know this seems like such an obvious point, but it's something that I feel like it needs to be said. Like, literally, no game has ever been perfectly balanced. It's never been done. Even the most
You
balanced,
can't do it.
arguably the most balanced game that has ever been created, in my opinion, is chess, and that is still unbalanced because white always goes first. Like, so yeah, I don't know.
The problem with balance is everything has to be identical. So if you balance a game, you just have the same classes.
Yep.
So, like, it just doesn't work.
Someone said StarCraft Brood War in chat. Need I remind you of the 4-year period where Protoss has only won in every single tournament? I guess that's balanced. I don't know. What do you, Biceptimus, we didn't get to you, but what are you looking forward to as far as content goes?
You mean other than RP weddings on Caltheon 2?
Yeah.
I mean, I love PP. I love Arena. It's what I did. It's my jam. But I am a bit concerned about it, especially if they're doing like rewards for 1v1 because it is unbalanced. And as soon as you have rewards and all that, you have to take it seriously. If it's unrewarded 1v1 and maybe rewards for season to 3-3 and 5-5 to 10, sure, great, awesome. If it's implemented in the right way where it doesn't take away from the world and people just sit in Orgrimmar all day queuing up, right? But actually play the game as well and have an incentive to participate in the game and not just a game within the game. I'm all for it. That being said, the thing I'm actually looking the most forward to is the AOB rework. And that's a game in a game, I know that, but I really like hero defenses and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's gonna happen there. And I hope it's going to be like a weekly thing, sort of the Attraction dungeon, that is worth doing. And if you enjoy doing it, you can do it, but you don't have to do it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with that.
I want to ask a controversial topic. What
Oh boy.
what to you? We'll start with you, Biceptimus. I want to hear Flannels' opinion on this too. And it's funny. Flannels to me is like really unique opinion because Flannels makes a lot of these Ranger matchups that are supposed to be bad not look bad. So I'm curious like where he stands on this. But Biceptimus, what is from your perspective, what is the most busted class in like a 1v1?
Okay. Sork. Fuck Sorks.
Sork? Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, go on.
And it's very simple. It's because I don't know what the hell they're doing. I'm just not a good enough player. I don't know what they're doing, and I can't be asked spending the time in learning their abilities. So it's much easier to just hate them and cling to the fact that they're overpowered, they iframe everything, and then they one-shot you in a CC. So there we go. Solves a problem.
Yeah. Flannels? It's the most busted 1v1 class right now.
Tamer.
Why?
Yes.
Tamer, 100%.
Why Tamer?
I have to
Hold,
agree.
they hold down a key bind for their WW. They can cancel everything, including their grapple, to the point where Mimo literally said, "Yeah, we could cancel our grapple fail animation. The only way you're gonna ever get me out is desync. Haha. How's that fair, man? You work so hard to get the CC throughout everything, and then the dog CCs you. They stand up and they just blow you up like 1-0. Like, bro,
Yep.
what, man? How? Void Lightning? Like, oh my god. It didn't even suck. Roaring spam.
It's the most unfair matchup. You're always fighting
You-
1v2, dude.
Yeah, even when I fight, granted, I can fight a good tamer, and I'll give respect. Like, yeah, he's a good tamer. He's a good player. It's just not fun. Even if I win, I feel like I'm just losing because I'm just not happy the whole time. It's just like,
That's how the warrior matchup
And even,
is.
dude, even when
Same sounds
tamers
like a
win,
waking LAN right there.
when tamers win via dog, they feel bad about it. I mean, what wasn't it the class tournament, Frosty? That I forget who it was, but
Yeah, Mamo
a
versus
tamer got
Balance.
grabbed by another tamer, and then the dog CC'd them, so the person who got grabbed won, and they literally apologized.
Yeah, they were like, dude, Balance was like, dude, Mamo, man, good fights. I'm so sorry it ended like that.
Yeah.
Dude, that's why I'm a little bit surprised no one said Tamer when I said which reworks are you most afraid of, because imagine a world where just all of Tamer's AoEs are bigger all of a sudden. I'm
Oh,
just
God.
like,
But that's what I don't think they're going to just do that. I think they are going
if
to
Void
fix
gets
some
bigger,
of the oppressive things. So that's why I'm not too worried about it.
Tamer's my next main, dude. Watch, I can't wait. Those Tamer
Oh, Lord.
reworks.
dude, I really hope they don't make Void bigger. It's already the most toxic fucking skill in the game. Like, I grade that even higher than vacuums, and vacuums are pretty fucking toxic for me.
Yeah, vacuums are pretty busted.
Dude, that spam roaring on suck. I just cannot. I cannot with that fucking skill.
What do you guys feel like is the meta right now? Because this is something I've been thinking about. Because for so long, when people are like, well, the siege meta, so talking about like large scale, because Flannels, you're in Black Rose, right? Still?
yeah.
Yeah. So I assume you siege and go to some node wars and stuff. Oh, you both are in Black Rose. You're guildies. Forgot. I used to be in Black Rose with you, Biceptimus, way back in the day, but I don't think we ever spoke. You were too famous for me.
Oh, so we're not good enough for you anymore? I see how it is.
But what to you guys is the large scale meta? Because it was defined for so long by wizard and caster meta, and at least the way I'm seeing it. So I'm in like a more of a tier 2 node war guild in Apocalypse. So we fight like corrupt all the time, and barcode and Spartan and Black Rose and digital, and to me it's like it's not like super defined right now. Like there's obvious classes that are really impactful, like Nova, but I don't see, it's not like a guild is running up with 20 Novas like you used to see with casters. So I guess starting with you, Biceptimus, what is like the large scale meta currently as you see it?
Are you trying to get our strats out of us, or what's going on here, Frosty?
Yeah, what is Black Rose's
what
large
is this?
scale strategy?
This seems a bit sus right now. Is this all? Are you even recording? I mean, casters are super strong. Rangers frags out, right? And something Q kill
Yeah.
everything every 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Something Q is right. I have a bone to pick with that skill.
Yeah, it's still like high damage and main ball. I don't think too much changed in like the meta of how you play. Like you still have your main ball, you still have your flex. Cannons are extremely strong in special teams, which is cool. But you still have the same classes fragging out. Yeah.
What about you? For you, Flannels?
Suck Corsair.
Yeah.
Maybe obviously Zerkers, casters, rangers, like some guardians, then you have flex and everything, but it really feels like Suck Corsair is that next class that is just,
It's on the rise, man. It's
Yeah.
super easy to play. It does really good damage, and it's always protected. And those bombs brought it to like a whole nother level.
Oh,
go on a
man.
vacuum, get a
It's so
10
oppressive
piece.
of anyone fighting against it. It's the block threat, it's the debuffs, it's the vacuums, and while being protected on top. Like you could remove the damage on the Sokkasa, and it would still be one of the most oppressive group fight classes in the entire game with literally 0 damage. It's yeah,
Yeah.
it is something else.
Did they ever fix that where they can use their ability over the fences?
On Sage or
Yeah.
Corsair? Yes. Well, I don't know about every ability, but they did with Lightning Prison and Flow Interrogate.
Gotcha.
I haven't actually tested it
The main
myself,
culprits, at
but
least.
yeah.
Lightning Prison, I think was.
I do want to have a brief moment to talk about Q buff for a second, because this recently I had to go into testing because I was insulted for the last time, because every Zerker I've ever spoken to, you tell them like, it's kind of weird that Q buff knocks you down on every hit. It feels a little bit strong. And here's what I always hear. This is always the response. LOL, you don't know how Zerker works. That's why you're saying that. If you knew, you'd know it only knocks down when Flamebuster is off cooldown or when Ancient Power is off cooldown. Other than that, it's just down smashes. Well, so I went in and tested this theory. Not only does it knock down on every single hit 100% of the time, regardless of cooldown, you can spec down to level 1 Flamebuster and completely unspec Ancient Power, and it still knocks down on every single hit 100% of the time. So the irony of them saying that I don't know what I'm talking about and that I think it's knockdowns because of the down smashes is actually like the opposite. They thought they were constantly down smashing everyone because they were constantly knocking down everyone over and over again. Like there are down smashes, but the down smash rules apply pretty normally. It's a 30% chance, and then if you have an add-on, but most of the time you're just knocking people down. I don't know if this is intended or not intended, but that is one of the main reasons that skill feels absolutely oppressive. And if it did have to adhere to some sort of cooldown, I think it would not feel as horrible. Rezlar being the resident.
What cooldown would you think?
Well, I mean, so Ancient Power is a 13-second cooldown, and Flamebuster is a 6-second cooldown. So I don't know, one of those two at the very least. But Rez, I wanted to get your opinion on it since that's your baby,
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been a long time advocate for nerfing Q buff. My issue with the idea of nerfing Q buff is it has to come with something else. Because, like I said, if you take away Q buff and you take away Seismic, this class is not very good. I won't say it'll be the worst class in the game, because there would still definitely be worse classes. But like, if you're going to take away Q buff and if you're going to take away or nerf Seismic, then there has to be changes in other places.
Yeah, I don't get why you're adding Seismic. I didn't mention Seismic a single time.
No, I'm just saying because that's what, like, those two skills are what makes this class very, very powerful right now, right? That's why I'm saying Seismic, because Q buff and Seismic are what makes this class as strong as it is currently. So if you're going to change either one of those things, then I feel like that's fine and that's totally viable, but there needs to be some buffs in some other places.
So I agree if they somehow nerfed Seismic, there would need to be. But if you nerfed Q buff down to a level where it's good, it's just not oppressive, I don't think that you'd have to give it something else in exchange. I think that leaving everything else the same would be fine. Seismic could still be Seismic and so on and so forth. So you think if, like, let's say Q buff only knocked down when Ancient Power was off cooldown, but the damage and everything else stayed the same, you think that it would weaken Zerker to a point that they would need buffs?
I think it would still be okay, especially if you're leaving Seismic as it is, but I would like to see some changes in some other places, and maybe that can come in the form of the rework. I don't know. But like, a lot of its large scale capabilities comes from that Q buff. So if suddenly Q buff is no longer doing as much as it was before, yes, I would like to see some buffs to its large scale in other places. And again, like, that can come in the form of reworks. I don't really care. But there are some very easy changes that I think would be really nice that would help Zerker's large scale. Namely, actually iframe in the air whenever you're doing Giant Leap. Perhaps some damage buffs, some small damage buffs to some of the protected AoE skills that don't do a lot of damage, like Slugfest. They don't have to make it crazy, but like just a little bit. I don't know. Like, I've always said nerf Q buff, that's totally fine because it's a very powerful ability and it's super not fun whenever you're getting Q buffed. Which at the end of the day, that's what is most important, are people having fun. So, but I don't know. I think just too much of Zerker's large scale capabilities is tied to its Q buff. So if you nerf that, then I'd want to see some buffs in other places without making them the new Q buff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously with the reworks, there's probably going to be a bunch of changes, but I guess I just
Right.
fundamentally disagree that if Q buff was brought down to a reasonable level, that Zerker would lose its strength overall. I think the Q buff thing is like it. So it goes from, someone described it this way before, where it's like, all right, when Zerker's on the battlefield, you have to like be aware of where they are, because they can come up and blow you up really fast, and you have to like be aware of that. But if they pop Q buff, like everyone it now becomes part of like the shot call. Like you don't, when like a wizard e-buffs, no one is calling that out. When a Corsair e-buffs, no one is calling that out. When a warrior e-buffs, that's not a call that my shot caller has to like let the entire guild know because we're about to get run over. Like when Q buff is called, it's like literally a shot call that completely changes how everyone on the battlefield has to play. And I just think that that's crazy, especially considering
I
it's
agree.
only a 3-minute cooldown.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I don't think any skill, any class's skill should be like that, whether that's Q buff or that's PA on witches and wizards. I agree.
Um.
Do you
Anyway,
think
yeah.
Q buff should? uh, Is it weird for me to say that it just seems like, I mean, obviously this has been in the game for a long fucking time, so kind of late in the game to be bringing this up, actually. But is it just weird to me only that Zerker's Q buff is the only one where they're just like sitting there spamming one skill, or however many skills, but it's just like they're constantly just shooting at you the whole time, whereas every other class's E buff is like it enhances your kit to in some capacity by buffing up you as a player, and allowing you to do more damage with your normal skills rather than just be like this
Well,
spam shooting machine.
it does do other things for your other skills as well. Like it removes the charge time on Ancient Wave, which is a very useful thing. But the thing is that's not as that's
It's
not
not
as
as
fancy
potent.
as.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like it does do some other things. It's not like the only thing Q buff does is, allow you to obliterate people from 500 meters away.
Yeah, maybe it was mostly my perception of how the skill is utilized because of how
No,
it
no, no,
affects
and
you.
that's valid. That's entirely valid because it just is. I mean, the most powerful thing you can do is just, at least in large scale, you just keep knocking people down and hoping that your team, is gonna go in and get all the kills. You can run in yourself and try and capitalize on your own Q buff, but
At
then
your own
you're not
peril.
Q buffing anymore, so you're not helping your team. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a very very powerful ability that should probably get nerfed. My only thing is if you're gonna nerf it, I would like to see some changes in some other places. But
Yeah.
yes, I
100%.
have always advocated for Q buff nerfs, always.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird that, I mean, like I said, a little late in the game to be bringing something like that up. It's been here for forever, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, the only reason I'm mentioning it is because I was insulted to my face one more time about how I have no idea what I was talking about, and I was like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna go record this and test it because I'm so sick of like, I'm just like, dude, they're my RNG cannot be that bad that the one shot that happens to hit me is off that 13-second cooldown every time. My RNG can't be that bad. Yeah, so I don't know, like that's the thing I was gonna ask two Flannels, because do you know Lorenz? I think he talks to you sometimes. P. Lorenz.
Ranger?
Yeah, he plays Ranger.
Yeah.
So he's one of the, I think we have 3 Rangers in our guild, but one of the things he noticed after the Wiz Witch meta, is that he has to deal with a lot more rat classes, and he also plays Succession in large scale, and I don't know, he like hates it. So it's like, are things right now, like for Rangers specifically, better or worse, based on like which classes you see and run into more often than they were before Wiz Witch Voltaic nerfs?
It's hard to say because I think even apart from that, Ranger, it's like either the best class or the worst class. Like, because it really also a big thing. It depends on the strength of your own guild and your ball that you can hide behind. Like, if you have the stronger guild, let's say in Siege, my guild is at an enemy's base.
Mm-hmm.
The Rangers are just like the final killing blow to it, like that just top it all off, it feels like. But you do sort of rely a lot on the strength of your ball and your guild to support you, right? Because when it comes to playing with a lot of like rats, they do look at Ranger as a free kill, and they do straight up tunnel vision target them, just trying to blow them up. So it can be rough. It it scales off of so many different factors, though. In
Yeah.
skirmish, I did not like going to no doors. I can say that.
Yeah, if you don't have people protecting you, it feels bad when you're trying to be in the back.
Yeah. But then again, if you do have those people protecting you, it's like the greatest thing in the world. You're just shredding, doing so much damage, and
Yeah, you
staying
can do
safe,
work all
and
day
it's
long.
range. Yeah. So it's like it's this weird mix where it's either the greatest thing or the worst thing.
I will say, as a resident rat class, I did like targeting rangers.
Yeah.
They were much easier to deal with overall because you guys defensively aren't as strong as some of the other classes to deal with.
I feel like in the guilds that I run, like if I'm against Black Rose, or like the last time I went on Sakuno against Black Rose, like every time I try to do anything to a ranger, I feel like a wizard just finds me, or a witch or something.
All right.
I just like always
Yeah.
get hit by Voltaic whenever I try to get a wizard or try to kill a ranger. Rez or Nash, is there anything else you wanted to ask our lovely guests?
Yeah, why can't EU people use global apps?
It's a good question.
That's
Because
PA related.
rules.
Rules.
This is
Why
rude.
were you asking us? Like, how the fuck am I supposed to know?
Yeah,
I
why
don't
did you
work
make
at
Why did
PA.
you make this decision, Biceptimus? Come on. What?
What?
No, but I thought you could before. Isn't that a recent development?
I think
Like,
it
you
got
need a
They always
VPN
had to use a
to-
VPN and
Yeah.
an NA account.
That's
to get
been
in or
like that since day one.
Yeah. Other
Yeah.
regions I think are able to, but EU for some reason is different.
Yeah.
No idea why.
That is a super weird, super strange thing. Wait, Flannels, I'm curious, how do you said you don't grind, but you do have enough gear to be in Black Rose. How do you make your silver? Are you a gambler?
What is this?
Are you a gambler,
Uh-oh.
dude?
So no, I'm not a gambler. I just do the things that most people sit there and hate and would never think of doing, but the like lazy ways, like running relic scrolls or doing field bosses.
Yeah, I had a
are-
feeling,
Oh
dude.
my
You're
God.
such a relic scroll
I was
type of
wondering
guy.
who was still buying.
Yeah, who's
those
buying
things.
these, dude? If anyone was wondering who's buying relic scrolls because you never see anyone do them, it's Flannels, dude. He's just soloing relic scrolls all day long while watching anime. It's just, oh my god, yeah. Because you're Biceptimus, you're about to start grinding. I wanted to ask you something. You know, do you know Samson, the warrior?
No clue who that is. No shout out to BSamson_ at Twitch TV. No, who's that? Can you tell me about him?
Well, he's running an evasion build, and he swapped to evasion for PvE because he likes Ash Force and Alune grind, and it makes it way more chill. And he's in this weird dilemma where he's not sure if he should stay evasion or swap to DR on his warrior. What do you recommend for warriors that are just getting to that point?
What point? His point?
Well, yeah, like so he's full C9 basically, right? If you're like full C9, I mean, do you recommend evasion on warrior, or do you prefer DR, and what are the pros and cons for you? Because I know you've had some
in general,
opinions on
like
this.
the general. Oh my god, man! This is like
I know, this one's
2 hours
deep.
normal discussion every stream. It's okay.
Did you do a video on
The
this?
TLDR is, of course, check out my YouTube channel where I got this guide and everything.
Yeah.
If you go evasion, you are pretty much going to be more tanky. at like full pen C9 plus and all that. It gives you more leeway in building tanky, and it's stronger in PvE, hands down on all classes, right? That's the general. Of course, there's a few differences with some classes, but that's a general gist of it. Warriors as a class benefit from being tanky. If we're fighting and we're dealing damage in PvP, just ignoring PvE for now, we are in a position where we can take damage as well. So being tanky obviously has innate value, because taking more hits allows us to be dealing more hits, right?
Mhm.
If you're, say, a ranger, maybe you're in a position where dealing damage doesn't require you to be able to take damage, right? So maybe you don't value tankiness the same way. And also, so the advantages of then going DR is obviously using a Nuver. And you're not going to be tanky with DR in a war. It's very simple. Even at full pin C20, which is where I am with DR, you're not going to be tanky with equal gear players. So what is the advantage, right? It's being able to use Nuver. Most of the times you're going to be AP capping yourself at around 305, 309 anyway. And then you're going to be swapping your accessories around instead of going full AP monkey. Maybe you're using Nags, maybe you're using Dawns, maybe you're using Omnis and Tauros, like basically swapping AP for accuracy.
Mhm.
And we just went over how warriors are now getting 24% accuracy.
Yeah.
So
Which
I don't
is
know about you
insane.
guys, but to me, going Nuver and DR and all that doesn't sound all that good. Sure, the evasion probably won't do a jack shit against other warriors, but there are classes in the game that doesn't have those accuracy modifiers yet. So maybe it's also going to be just a net positive in PvP, and you're gonna have enough damage and accuracy going full evasion. There's no right and wrong about this. Like, I'm full DR.
Mhm.
I actually don't even use maneuver anymore. I sold it. So I'm actually, even in PvP, I'm full DR with a Kudum, which
Right.
is weird, but it makes sense for what I'm doing. So,
So
um,
go ahead,
With,
Nashi.
with that that huge accuracy increase, have you considered trying human damage on warrior?
yeah, that was my first thought. It was like, okay, well, I guess I'm removing Vipers.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
if that comes live, I am probably going to completely redo my crystals, and either I'm going to go just full tanky, Sage style, if the damage numbers and abilities are fine. Because again, as a warrior, I benefit a lot from any amount of tankiness increase I get.
Yeah.
Even if it's small, like just because it's small doesn't mean it can't have a big effect, right?
Yeah.
We all know this to be true. And so slight increases, maybe changing gems around for more tankiness, HP, yada yada. Or maybe we're just gonna go like, fuck it. Yeet all of that and just human damage, crystals left and right.
Yeah, I guess it
Yeah.
depends on how much that human damage will
Mm,
impact your. If you're able to like start one-shotting people around your gear score really easily, not one-shotting,
yeah.
but really quickly deleting them in a few skills because of obviously the huge damage increases that you guys are seeing. That
Mm,
that could change how that
yeah.
is looked at. But yeah, if it's to the point where it's like it's not enough to really be super impactful, but you get like huge damage increases just naturally from the changes, staying tanky is obviously the
Yeah.
beneficial aspects.
So it also comes down to like, that's just for me, right? But if it depends on like what you value in the game, and like which like aspects is your priority.
Yeah.
Like, are you one versus one, large scale, grinding, etc., etc. So maybe you're gonna value different things. And yeah, maybe you actually want to go and use what's it called? 2 seconds. I need to kill hands here real quick.
Ron, I'll finish your sentence for you. Ronaros rings.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
Sorry. Yeah, maybe you want to be using like resistance stuff instead, right? There's so
Right.
many options. It
So
doesn't have to be
in this
like AP or tankiness and stuff like that, right?
in this all evasion build though, are you with like a centaur and a sissel? Because like if you're just C20 evasion, most classes with 1 or even 2 accuracy accessories, like just kind of like it feels like you're not wearing gear if you don't have sissel centaur. Like it just like deletes you. Is that part of the plan in this situation, or where you're going evasion on a warrior?
Yeah, like you definitely want to have those swaps. They go such a long way having that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having stuff to swap in and out for when you need to be more tanky and when you value one thing or another.
Yeah. Do you think some people? I mean, I know you feel pretty strongly that DR doesn't feel very tanky, but I don't know. Like Onyx Ace is pretty damn tanky, and like I know you've experienced running into this person, and a lot of people have, and everyone thought forever that he was evasion because he's super tanky, but multi is also DR. And if you run like, so he runs DR, he's full DR, he's full C20, all that stuff, and he also is like, he uses the HP in his rings, and he uses Eye of the Ruins and Baltar. Like he also has a lot of HP. I don't know. So for me, like it does still seem like there's a fair amount of tankiness if you stay with DR. It's not like you're just like paper.
No, you can definitely get way more tank. It's not like you don't get tankiness; it doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not at equal gear, right? It's just not enough, really. You're never gonna get like really, really tanky.
Right. You got to do like Zethian's build with the 269
yeah, pretty much, right?
AP.
If you actually want to. If you actually want to get the benefit of it, and the thing is, a lot of people underestimate just the trade-off of going DR versus evasion, right? People think you lose way more damage than you actually do going evasion. At end game, the differences are like super minute, and then you also have to factor in the PvE trains, right? So that's one of the big things that got me to switch out for Nuber to Kudum, even being DR. It's the fact that every time I build my in-game gear around like 309 AP with Nuber, when I go grinding, which I do a lot, I put on a Kudum, and suddenly I lose out on a bunch of AP brackets, just innately by doing that swap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like it depends, like what do you value and how do you play the game, and there isn't necessarily a right and wrong. It also comes down to like playstyle. If you value like 1v1, so maybe you're very aggressive and like good getting in and out, and that's your playstyle. Maybe you like to stay a bit more and work more as a meat shield, right? You can build different routes, and especially with the rework, and it's like the numbers are looking kind of Sage like, where the damage is already there in the kit. So maybe you can get away with building less less damage and still deal the damage.
Yeah.
So maybe you could put on that Centaur build, and maybe you can put on that Sizzle Neck and still do enough damage.
What about for you, Flannels? There's not as, actually there might arguably more than Warrior. There, like some Rangers do run evasion. Do you value evasion on Ranger at all, or do you prefer DR?
I think you're asking the wrong guy, man. I'm still at armors.
Oh no! Wait, what? I thought you were 330 something DP.
Yeah, I have one pen with C9. I have 10 armors.
You and Nihilus, man, need to get it together. It's not that hard to get pen armors, man.
I'm working on it.
I'm sure you and Nihilus are both working on it in Battle Arena.
I think, from what I've seen, yeah, I've actually seen some pretty tanky evasion rangers, or not like tanky, but way tankier than DR. It depends. There's a lot of options. A lot of people go different things. You just full AP, accuracy, evasion. Some people even go like hybrid for awakening stuff. So it kind of really depends on just what you want to do. I think they can all work, and I don't have enough gear to tell you which one is better than the other. Yeah, he said Sonny said you got to reach that sweet spot, 305 AP. I'm still trying to work on that, so maybe one day.
All right, Nayashi or Rez, you guys got any other questions?
Nope.
I was watching that fight with Hands, and you were gaining health while he was comboing you.
Yeah, so like I wasn't wearing buffs or anything. I didn't have alchemy stone on because I'm just grinding.
It's a good thing he has a
right
7-second cooldown grab, because he needed to grab your ass like 5 times.
Oh my god! All right, the last thing I do want to talk just about grabs before we go. This will be the last topic before we head out. But I'll start with you, Flannels. Your thoughts on the state of grabs in the game? If you could make changes to grabs, would you? And what would they be? Or do you think grabs are fine in the way they are currently?
So I think that this isn't necessarily a problem with them, but I think a big issue is that they have priority over iframe now. So that's like a real big killer. But I have a not so popular take. I think that some of them are actually fairly balanced. It's just that they get overshadowed because there are aspects to them that shouldn't exist that do somewhat, like SA fail, range, like cone, like all those things. I feel
Mhm.
like when you hear someone complain about a grapple, it's mainly like lawn, range grapple, warrior, solar flare grapple. Like it's just these. There are cheesy elements to it, or certain aspects that are strong, but then there are ones that I do think are somewhat fair. Ultimately, I think that range grapples are awful for the game. Even if, like, I'd say Corsair's grapple is weak, it's still ranged. I still think it's bad. I still think it should be melee and you just buff it so it obviously doesn't have that huge delay. I think that is way more fair because then it creates this, like, your spacing, right? And you can read your opponent, like, oh, they're coming in. He's in a grapple. I have to avoid it. And then you try to
Right.
counterplay. But when it's ranged, it's so much different and it's like cheesy kind of. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
100%.
Yeah. Ranger grab is definitely not one I've ever really complained about.
Yeah, for me, it's still just like with all grabs. I just feel like the cooldowns generally are too short. Biceptimus, what about you with your feeling on grabs in general?
Way too many grabs, way too protected grabs, way too strong grabs.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot of stuff. They should really just, especially cooldown on grabs. Let's just jump into the big one, right?
Yeah.
They really should have like a more intuitive system with like the cooldown. Like if it's ranged, longer cooldown, knockdown, longer cooldown, protected, longer cooldown. Like all of these things, just add them in for like building up, um, uh, like make it a bit more balanced with those things. It's yeah, and I would much rather have them remove protections on grabs than adding more protected grabs.
Yes,
Yeah,
please. Please.
Yeah.
it's I think it's too much. There has like it's just outside of vacuums, which I can rant about for a very long time. Just forget vacuums for a second. Grabs is it's the strongest CC in the game, right? It iframe should be the counter to grabs. So it's also weird. Like it used to be that you could, if you got grabbed in an iframe, you got CC'd because of desync, but you were like invulnerable on the ground. Now you just get grabs, and especially for me with my shitty ping, right? That's
Yeah.
my iframe does not work. Warrior iframe is like whatever, and it's even with my 200 ping, it's like forget about it. It doesn't work.
You probably get
And
grabbed from like
honestly,
a
you
fucking
have to be
half a ping
punished, right?
away.
If it's such a strong cooldown, you shouldn't just be literally clicking E or whatever every time it's off cooldown, hoping it lands. It should be something you're using for reason and tactical and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I do want to
that's-
say, I think there should be some protected grabs. I just because how important they are for large scale. Like I've seen a circle with 200 go in and I live an entire team. I try to grab him, I get CC'd by the 200%. And like I think it's important for large scale to have some protected grabs. But
Yeah.
there's way too many of them. Way too many.
So
yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, like Zerker and Striker, like, are two of the classes that I like. Don't really have a big deal with them having, you know, their grabs the way they are. But as
Agreed.
far as
Those
cooldown
two
and whatnot.
specifically,
But
man, it makes
yeah,
sense. Maybe they have a few too many, but
yeah. But yeah, I can understand it. Like their kits are built around them. But the other classes, like the cooldowns, at least need to be adjusted, and maybe protections adjusted for those classes that are, like you were saying.
I actually want to throw Sogwar in there, where I think it's fine, but I also don't think it should be reduced to 11 seconds. I think like 13 seconds is a good long cooldown for a protected grab.
Yeah.
And I do like that Succession Warrior has it, Awakening doesn't. But it would also be cool having the options as a warrior. But maybe that would be too much, right? But have the option, either I take the protected grab for large scale, and then when I'm fucking around doing getting my cheeks clapped by hands, maybe I take the short cooldown grab there, right?
Yeah, I like the main thing that you mentioned though is true. Like with how the cooldowns are, but it's like with non-grab classes, we need time to play around, like finding openings and whatnot. With how the things are right now with the grab cooldowns and all the protections in the game, non-grab classes are really struggling with finding those openings unless the opponent is just unnecessarily playing risky or he's outgeared by you. Like, so it's basically like a huge gear check thing. So um yeah, there needs to be time for non-grab classes to be able to play around, and there currently just really isn't in some matchups.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
go.
that should be like a window of punishment
Yeah,
if you miss it, but you should also I think unprotected, right? So if they actually miss the grab, you have that split second of reaction if you bait out the grab, and then punishing that as well. I think that would just be way better in general for the game.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
specifically what you said earlier. Is instead of being so dependent on the grab, it should be something that's used in a niche scenario. I feel like that would be nice.
Yeah, I
but
do think
it's
that
just
it's
not the way it
important
is.
that it is in the game. I actually think that it is an important ability in the game, the way it functions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have to completely rework like the systems and like the protections and all that, which could be fun as well. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna go into specifics on them. So one, I think the cooldowns overall are just way too short on all of them. I actually even think 13 seconds is too short. Like minimum to me would be 15. I'd prefer even longer, but 15 at the most. So or at the lowest. So that way it's like when someone does go for the grab, it's important. That interaction is important, and then both players have to play around it for a while and keep track of that cooldown and all that stuff. And some of these grabs that are 7 or 8 seconds don't make any sense to me. I don't think Sage has any business with a ranged grab. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think it should be point blank melee. It's also crazy to me that it's funny because we had Armin on the podcast before he was a GM, and in that podcast, I don't know if you remember, Reslar, we were talking about the downtime after a failed grab, and I was saying that I think it was fine, and Armin agreed it was fine. You were saying it was a little too long. And then they made it so Bolt overcharges, or the grab overcharges Bolt. Now there's 0 downtime whatsoever. There's like literally not. If you fail the grab, you can iframe, especially if your ping is good enough, you can iframe before it's. Most people don't even recognize that you went for the grab. Like it's like can be that fast. I think Tamer's downtime also is too short. I think with Mystic and Striker and like Zerker, I'm also okay with the fact that they're protected, especially on success, because if you're holding someone up and you're unprotected, then your grab just becomes completely useless in group PvP. I just think on like Striker Mystic specifically, 7 seconds is so incredibly oppressive and completely removes like there's just no reason not to just protect yourself for 4 seconds and then go for it again, and then protect yourself for 4 or 5 seconds and then go for it again. It's like just the most simple playstyle that can be really frustrating for people that those classes are already really protected. So I think it can be frustrating for a lot of players that not only do I have a difficult time CCing them to begin with, but also every 7 seconds they can pull me out of my protection. So there's like a lot of grabs like that. Like the lawn, I actually don't mind the range outwardly. I cannot stand that it's so forgiving directionally that cone is like you can completely whiff your grab on every other class, but a lawn would succeed it. Is it feels so bad, and you
It doesn't
see
matter in which dimension you are either.
yeah, and you see it dictate their play so much. Like lawns are like, there's some that are gonna be aggressive with some of their protected CCs, but man, a lot of them literally just double dash, grab, and fly away and wait for it to be off cooldown. And it's just like that cooldown is too short, and it shouldn't be as forgiving. So I don't know. There's a lot of things. I keep seeing, there was a Reddit post yesterday about grabs and how they should rework them, and everyone has these ideas of block break mechanics or grab break mechanics and blocking grab, and maybe grab shouldn't go through frontal guard and all these different things. But I really think that people would feel a lot less frustrated by grabs if they just weren't happening nearly as often, and if all of them were punishable on fail. Consistently punishable on fail. Like just those things alone would like just reduce the stress level of the community by a massive amount without even having to change the system entirely. Did you want to add anything, Rez, to the grab?
No,
stuff?
I agree. Like, I think all of the attempts to like introduce like new complicated mechanics, like a grab, repel, or a CC break, things like that, like as solutions for grab specifically, are kind of silly. Like if you just stop with this like 6-second grab like crap that so many classes have, it's like, I don't know, it would be fine, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's we'll have to see what they end up doing.
It doesn't look like that's the direction they're going with the SmackDown change. Takedown.
Takedown. Yeah, I was hoping that maybe they would like talk about or change grabs in the reworks, but that seems like it's not gonna happen, which is kind of unfortunate, honestly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it. Dude, Flannels and Biceptimus, thank you guys so much for coming on, and I really hope they said that they plan on releasing everything at once in October. My guess is it'll be a little bit later than that, at least for NAEU. It'll probably be a little bit later than that. Maybe KR gets it at the end of October. But I would love in the future to revisit some of the stuff once everything is all said and done, and kind of have a similar discussion and see where things played out. Because like you said, Biceptimus, when Suck Warrior came out, everyone was like, oh my god, this is so good, and its PvE was good, and then they nerfed its PvE a bunch right after it came out. Same with Ranger. Succession Ranger PvE felt really good, and then they nerfed it, and the irony of it is that even that version of Succession Ranger isn't even like close to what the top grind classes are now. So yeah, it would be really fun to have you guys back on, but I appreciate both of you a ton for taking the time out to hang out with us, and I know scheduling is kind of crazy, especially for you, Biceptimus. So thank you guys very, very much for coming on. Flannels first, is there anything you wanted to plug or share or shout outs to anyone before you go?
I guess shout out to Hands. It's my boy, my AOA teammate. He streams and does YouTube vids. I'm sure a lot of people already know him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything else to say in that. I hope the Ranger community isn't too mad at me for saying that. I think that our reworks are good and not bad. It's just really it's just really early to tell, and I think everybody has to wait for the other ones to see what they bring and then go from there.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Biceptimus, any shout outs? You want to plug your YouTube, your Twitch, and anything else?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm sure if people want to come hang at the Twitch streams, that's BiceptimusPrime, they'll they'll be able to find the other stuff as well. I just want to thank you guys so much for having us on. It's been an absolute joy, and yeah.
I hope that your next pen attempt goes, man. I hope it does.
Thank you.
I really truly do. Mostly so I have good karma on mine because I'm only 0 for 4 and I don't want to get to 59 or 61 like you are. That sounds awful.
61, yeah. 61.
Flannels, you don't stream or make YouTube videos or anything?
I mean, I made like 2 montages, but no, I don't really do anything.
Why not?
His AOA montage was pretty good. I love that montage, by the way.
Well, I have a not good ping, and if I stream or something, I don't know. I just don't want to. I don't want to desync or anything. Maybe in the future, but who knows?
Where are you located in the States, if you don't mind me asking?
East Coast.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Dang, dude, imagine being that good and on the East Coast. It's crazy. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for coming on, and we're gonna jump into comments. You guys are 100% welcome to stay. Sometimes some cool discussions come up from the comments. But if you guys want to bounce, that's also totally fine. Totally up to you guys.
Yeah, it's getting a bit late, so I'm gonna be heading out.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna head out also. Thank you for
Alright,
having me
awesome.
again.
Yeah,
I'm
likewise.
totally down to do it in the future when more stuff comes out and revisit the changes to see how it goes from global labs to being finalized. But yeah, thank you again for having me. It was fun.
Cool, man.
After
Thank you guys.
after the Ranger community whips you into shape.
Boy.
True.
Oh,
All right.
my
Well,
God.
I'm gonna head out. Take
Alright,
care,
guys.
guys.
Take it easy, guys.
Thank y'all.
for
Thank
coming on.
y'all so much.
Dude, they were awesome. That was fucking cool.
Yeah, that was definitely really good feedback on those reworks.
Yeah, I'm interested
their
to see.
perspective.
I'm interested to see in its final form, post all the changes that they say they're gonna make, what
Mhm.
it'll be like, and how interesting it'll be to come back to this episode and like hear what they talked about in this episode and compare it to the final product. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the next class? Is it Valkyrie or is it
No,
Sork?
it
They're not-
looks like it. Yeah, they haven't said. They said they're gonna go in order, but I feel like with the launch, it's kind of weird because they came out with like 4 classes, so it could be Zerker or Sork most likely.
Yeah,
Huh.
because technically Ranger is 4th on the Awakening weapon list, which is the #1 way to check out the order of the classes. But
Yeah.
like Frosty says, the original 6 classes were all out at once, so who knows what's going to come out next.
I do hope they stick to 2 a week, dude. The other thing that's really interesting is just to see like how many changes are gonna be for Warrior and Ranger next week. You know.
Hmm.
Dude, what if they do Musa Mewa next week?
No,
Yeah.
I doubt that. It's either gonna be, so what are the original 6? The original
They
6
said in
is
release
Warrior,
order.
Ranger,
Yeah, Warrior, Ranger, Tamer,
Sork,
Sork,
Tamer,
Zerker.
Valk, Berserker.
Yeah. So it'll,
And then after that, what's after that? Hold on, Awakening. So after the original 6, then you have Musa Mewa, Ninja Kuno, Wizard Witch, DK, and Striker.
did Wizard Witch come
Mist-
out after Ninja Kuno? I don't think so. No, those were already out before. I played Wizard.
I'm just going by the Awakening
Oh,
weapon list, my guy.
Yeah. No, so here I think let me see if it
Well,
loads for me.
so Witch and Wizard were out originally in our game on release, but it wasn't an original class in KR.
Right. I think that this is the order, more or less. I think it went by technicality. I don't know if this is beta reveal or what, but I think it went Warrior, Sork, Ranger, Zerker, Tamer, and then did it not? Was it not Valkyrie, Wizard, and Witch, and then Musa Mewa, and then Ninja Kuno?
I think so.
Right? Then Valkyrie, Wizard, Witch, then Musa Mewa, Ninja Kuno, Dark Knight, Striker, Mystic, Lawn, Archer, Shy, Guardian, Hash, Nova, Sage, Corsair. I think.
I know the mages, Witch Wizard, were out before Musa Mewa because my buddy who introduced me to the game way back, he was playing a wizard. So
You're still saying Musa, Valk, Mewa, but I definitely played Valk first before Musa came out, and I replayed after Musa came out and made a Musa. So maybe that was the KR order. But we had Valk was playable before Musa on our server.
Hmm.
So it might be
Anyway,
unfair.
we'll have to see.
Anyway,
It's a mystery.
yeah, we'll see. The beginning will be rando, but basically once we've got the bladers, like we will know for sure from there. I do want to talk real quick. I completely forgot to go a little bit into detail with the infinite pots and the change there. And I know, Rez, you're super happy about this change, I think.
Yeah.
So let me just kind of explain how the new pity system works. Basically, there's going to be 100 pieces, 100 materials that you can get from each of the grind spots. We don't know. They didn't mention which mobs they drop from, if it's only the same mobs that currently drop the actual potions, or if it's just all the mobs in that area. But once you have 100 pieces, you combine it or you show it and you get an item, and then you combine the two items and you get the piece for that spot. And this is on top of the fact that the spot could drop the item individually. On top of that, and we don't know the drop rate. It could be embers, it could be leaves, it could be who knows how long it could take. But I assume it probably won't be that bad. And then they also made it so the individual pieces, and this is only true for the potion, the healing, the HP pot, the individual pieces will allow you to get a baby version of the potion. So if you have one of the HP pot pieces, you can use it to turn into a small pot, which will heal you 125 HP with a 2-second cooldown. If you have two of the pieces, you can use that to heal for 200 HP every 2 seconds. And then once you get all three, you'll get the full large pot, which is 275 in 2 seconds. And then the mana pot also has the pity pieces, the 100 of each, but you have to complete the mana pot entirely. They also buffed the mana pot, the resource one, to match what actual resource pots give us. Before, like large mana pots give, or extra large mana pots give 375 mana and have a 5-second cooldown. But to compensate for like the WPSP, I guess they made the infinite pot only give 325 and a 6-second cooldown. So they've changed that. But yeah, so that's the overall gist, the long and short of it. Also, if you already have the pots completed, you'll get an item that'll let you like combine it to make a kind of different looking pot. It'll have a slightly different icon with gold on it. It'll show your name on it, and it'll say, and you'll get a title, color changing title, I guess, for each one. So, Reslar, thoughts on this system being implemented?
Finally. That's my thoughts. I mean, good. I mean, there's so much we don't know. Like, what's the drop rate? What mobs does it drop from? Like, I mean, I'm glad that it exists. I've been saying for a long time, it doesn't even matter how good this system is. Just having one is going to help a lot of players on that grind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it actually ends up being implemented. I like the leave it to Reddit to come up with the dumbest comment of the day. There was a comment on the post on Reddit of someone saying that it's unfair that the people who have the pots get like a special title and stuff for it. Like,
Oh,
that's a weird take, man. But I mean, I respect it. But boy, is that a weird take.
yeah.
That is some entitled shit right there.
I dig it, dude. Nyashi, when you do Rez, I think we have one comment we gotta delete. Nyashi, if you do return to the game, now with the pity system in place, are you more likely to go grind for this?
I mean, yeah, probably. Like, it depends on where I am with my gear and like if I'm happy with it. So, for example, if I come back full hardcore again, I'll probably finish off the last C9 armor, which is currently C8, so just 3 bill, knock it out. Probably grind out till 305, and then at that point, I would probably consider going for the pot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So about 30-ish bill worth of grinding, and then I would just go for it because that would be a comfortable spot. That would be basically, what is that? 660 5 gear score. So that'd be a pretty good spot.
They also added a new free pet that you can get for finishing the Serendia questline. So that way you get 5 free pets when you first start out the game, which I think is pretty awesome. They added the item loot scroll on off thing that is now coming to KR on the 8th. We will be getting it the week after, most likely. They simplified the UI on it a little bit. The way the cooldown works now is if you turn it on, the cooldown is procced. I believe it's like either when you turn it on or when you turn it off. But the cooldown only procs. Oh yeah, that's what it is. When you activate either 1 or 2, one of the 2 stages, it'll start the cooldown for 5 minutes. If you turn it off, it actually doesn't change the cooldown. It just pauses it. But then when you turn it back on, you get the cooldown. So you can't change it, every pack or every elite or whatever to try to cheese your loot scrolls. If you're on normal, not advanced, it just counts down 1 second at a time. It's based on time. If you're on advanced, counts down 2 seconds at a time. So that is finally coming. I'm very excited about that. And yeah, that's kind of it. So,
Good stuff though.
Yep, really, really cool stuff. I don't know where it is in here, but they had mentioned that they are going to buff Baragi Den and Alter Imps, and I believe Baragi and Alter Imps, and that they're looking into buffing Nagas and
Orcs
Fogans.
again?
No, Nagas and Fogans as well.
Orcs is looking far behind, so they gotta get it caught up.
Yeah, poor orcs, dude. They're gonna buff orcs and succession lawn PV.
Oh god.
Yeah, all right. On to the comments. Here we go. First comment. Let me refresh actually.
Yeah, I deleted 2 comments,
Okay,
so
2.
should be good. If I missed another one, just let me know.
All right. No, I don't know. This one didn't go away, but Chris Loden says first, and he has a little medal. How do you guys about Corsair Awake and Suck overall? The good, the bad about her. Rez, you want to talk about it? How do you feel about Corsair overall? Suck and Awakening.
Suck and Awakening. Okay, so Succession Corsair is really strong. It's pretty. I don't know how to feel about Suck Corsair because it has a lot of really powerful shit about it, but then it runs against like a Zerker or a Warrior, and then they're just get grabbed, and that's it. It's really weird. I kind of hate that they are reliant so much on their resist. But that being said, if the resist is working and or if they don't have to deal with the Zerker or Warrior hunting them down with their ignore grapple resist, they are extremely, extremely powerful. Like Frosty mentioned earlier, those bombs have made them very, very, very powerful. As far as Awakening goes, I don't think it's as strong as Succession. It has a lot more range for sure, and god damn does that anchor fucking hurt. But overall, I really don't think it's as good. I still think it's fairly strong, but not as powerful as Succession.
No, it has
But I don't
split damage. It can't possibly hurt.
Bro, that anchor chunks, brother.
Yeah, that anchor, it feels good when that thing lands, dude. I also love Shift Q because Shift Q has so much range. That's the one where they hop in the air and shoot. There are so many times in Node Wars where like my guild's ball like just dives and I just last hit someone that I don't even really see. It's really funny. I just like shoot it into the ball and then just I see a red thing come up. I'm like, all right, we got one. It's actually really I love so Succession Corsair is clearly too strong in large scale, way too easy, too protected. My personal proposed changes for it are remove the block recovery mechanic from Spiral Soak, which is the double whale skill. I also think that the Rabomb needs to be just changed in general. Would be a nerf to Awakening and Suck, but I think it's fine. That Rabomb escape is just too strong. I think maybe lower the amount of time you're in it and also start it as super armor and then go into SA. Start it as super armor and then go into the iframe and then lower the amount of time you're in it would be really nice. I also think while you're moving, it should be consuming stamina, not just locked while you're in there. And then lastly, what was the other one? Oh, the this one's more unpopular. I think Corsairs hate me for saying it. I think the vacuum should be just entirely removed from Jetstream. I think it's completely unnecessary for making that class good or bad. It still would be super good in group fights without that vacuum, and it should just be removed. It's like an added frustration for not something like it's not. I feel like Valk and Mystic rely on their vacuums a little bit more. It's like a more important part of their kit, whereas like the Corsair one just feels thrown in and is like unnecessary. It's also you're completely iframed while you're vacuuming, which is crazy. Those would be my proposed changes. That would just be a start. Maybe there's other things that needs to be nerfed, but that at least if those three things happened, I feel like it would be a lot less oppressive. And then Awakening, yeah, kind of like Reslar said. I think it has some weaknesses and some strengths. I think it's pretty good. I don't think in its current state that it's overpowered like most new classes can feel on Awakening Corsair. In 1v1, a lot of the decent 1v1 classes can do just fine against it. Its damage can be really strong if it gets off the whole combo. It's not a very fast combo, like range combo class. And then its like melee stuff it's pretty good for defending itself if you get gap closed on. It's not like a suck ranger where when they get there, you have some really cool melee tools. But in its current state, it doesn't feel super oppressive. The only thing I would change is the Rabomb just probably needs some nerfs. Yeah, so Monarch says, man, 1v1 literally, GGX says if Jetstream didn't have vacuum, it's literally a death sentence in 1v1. I don't know how that makes any sense. Monarch Gaming says, man, 1v1 literally doesn't matter. Elvia spots besides main rotation during prime time are always uncontested in NA. I don't know which Elvia spots he's talking about. Not Orcs or Bloody, at least. I know that. They have completely shit on the karma system for open world flagging. All competitive content is based around small or large scale. Maybe the addition of the arena system 1v1 will be more than a meme, but I doubt it. I think the arena system is going to show a few people who are gods at the game in the top 10 slots of the leaderboard. Then the 90 slots will all be filled with whatever flavor of the month class is current. Then people will use it to complain about class balance constantly until PA removes it. PA, please just focus on PvE large scale right now. You can go back later and look at 1v1 for all the BA routes and DFS Andes. Yeah, I completely, I highly disagree. I think 1v1 is a very important part of the game. I think if you large scale, then you would know that 1v1 is a very important part of the game because you end up in 1v1s all the time in large scale. Happens constantly.
Yep.
And if you don't end up in 1v1s, either you're a caster that just stays directly with the ball at all times, or you just give up and let yourself die when you get caught in a 1v1. But yeah, 1v1s are super important, and it makes zero sense to just not balance them at all. It also matters for in AoA when they have tournaments, comes down to 1v1s all the time. They even had a 1v1 format. It also comes down to grind spot disputes and open world stuff. In GVGs, you end up in 1v1s all the time. It's crazy to say that 1v1 literally doesn't matter. You might not feel it's important, but it is a massively important part of the game that people run into all the time.
You know, it helps handle disputes on who's the best at their shit class, you know? Like, they can't beat other classes, so they gotta compete between each other, you know?
Also, Elvia spots are not uncontested in NA during prime time. That is... Baragi, Bloody, and Orcs are literally crowded on every channel 100% of the time, no matter whether it's prime time or not. Maybe Fogans, Imps, and Nagas are not, but the other ones are. And Castle Ruins maybe not, but yeah, the other three definitely are. Dude, literally the other day, I was grinding at Orcs. While I was grinding, people were duel for spotting for my spot that I hadn't given up yet. Like, that's how annoyingly contested it is. There's always a white dot or random new horse on my map or on my screen in the middle of me grinding, and always someone that just starts grinding over me. It's crazy.
I don't know how if it's changed since a month ago, but when I was grinding Bloody Monastery, I would do more of like the field, and that wasn't too bad. There might be times where I have to swap, but it wasn't horrible to get spots. I was usually pretty consistent on being able to get spots. So unless it's changed in the last month, it should be not too bad. But yeah, it's possible things changed.
Hydra 159 has a link to a timestamp, says that has been happening to me on Guardian for the last year, and no, it's not resist. I don't know what I didn't get a chance to look at it and see what he's referring to. Cody Shane says, great show. I'm really looking forward to the next few months with the reworks. I was curious, do you think after all the reworks are done, they will touch up on the rest of the classes besides Shy to make sure no one feels left out? Will they touch up on all the classes except for Shy to make sure no one feels left out? I personally do think so. I think that they'll make minor tweaks after the reworks to some of the newer kits just to make sure everything's like somewhat balanced. Because if any of them get left way behind, like for example, I mean obviously Awaken Hash is super good in 1v1, and in large scale I actually think Awaken Hash is better than a lot of people give it credit for. But if everyone's power level goes up a little bit, I think Awaken Hash will feel a little bit behind in large scale. But so they'd have to probably do something. But yeah, I imagine they'll continue balancing after. And it's something that anytime I'm in talks with any of the GMs or CMs in the partner Discord, I am constantly just reminding like, hey, one of the most important things about this rework is that after the rework is over, that they continue balancing stuff instead of just like, all right, reworks are done, we'll revisit balance in 6 months. Like, it can't be that way. It needs to be just a constant, ever-changing thing. So hopefully they do.
They'll get their outfit team on it.
Actually, that's my question for you guys. Do you think the day the reworks come out, they're going to have a new outfit for every class that got reworked? That's
God, no.
That would be a major way for them to make a shit.
They would make bank if they did that. Their team should be hard on that right now. Like, people are dying for outfits because they come out so slow because there's so many classes and they release one a week. So it's like people are dying for outfits. Like if they did, it would be. I think it would be kind of nuts.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should. Like, I'm not big on, necessarily like having a bunch of transactions and whatnot in the game, but when it comes to the outfit stuff, I think they definitely need to capitalize on that whenever they can, and this would be definitely a prime way to do that.
Yeah.
I want them to like step further away from the stuff that's might be looked at pay to win and look more at the cosmetic stuff. So I think that would be a good thing for them to do.
Back Bay Sailor says, you ever think of making the episodes longer than 3 hours? They feel very short since they are entertaining. We are constantly thinking about how to make it not 3 hours.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
They just happen to go 3 hours sometimes.
I think I commented on it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure like a decent portion of our episodes are 3 hours.
Yeah. And I do want to say for the record, I'm going to try my best to get... It's going to be hard because if we don't have a preview of the reworks, it's going to make it more difficult. Like, we had a lot of notice for this one, but I'm going to try my best to get the reworked classes on the podcast every single week. Like a guest that plays the rework classes every week. So that way we have some outside perspective and get some people that are testing it maybe more thoroughly than we are. Just because I think it's really interesting to get their perspectives on it, because there's so much misinformation and like hyperbolic, like reacting crazy. So it's nice to get... I mean, dude, honestly, if I didn't look into it at all, like I honestly would, if I'm just a normal, let's say I've been playing the game, I just graduated seasons. I go on Reddit, I go watch a few streams. Like, my takeaway would be like, that's so weird that the Ranger rework just made them worse. And it's like, oh wait, that's not what actually happened. You just have to actually like figure it out. I don't know. It's crazy. So it's really cool to have the perspective. So we're gonna try our best to get people on every week to talk about the reworks. Latin Agnesot says they should just rework Shy. They should. I think when he says just rework Shy, he means also. But it would be funny if they only reworked Shy and canceled all the other reworks.
I think that would be great.
Calahad says, hoping Valks become more than just a shield throw bot with the reworks. They're not. They're a 100% ultimate vacuum bot. Styrofoam Rock says, Awakening Nova definitely needed the nerfs to her Twisted Orbit and Fused Gravity. However, I'd like to mention that it's almost always a Nova using Excel every time I see a Nova is OP video. I feel like Awakening Nova is really only broken right now because of Excel, so hopefully Excel gets the majority of the nerfs. I agree. I think if in large scale, I mean, Nova is like really strong regardless, but I think in large scale, if Nova Excel was the focus of nerfs, people would feel less frustrated with the class.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the kit's like in general is really strong.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think Excel is just definitely the focal point, like you were saying. It's just really, really fucking strong. Too strong.
Gemini says, I don't know. I have to work on that. Still working on that. Talus X Septum says, he links at 2 hours 6 minutes. Regarding the discussed stamina change on Lawn, the skill he was talking about, Frosty, was the one you just said they should use instead. The Pre-Awakening AP is the one that recently got a stamina reduction buff, while using the Awakening one, Taunting Death, is just throwing away stamina for 10 AP. I'd like to see the buff skills on Lawn be changed. It's probably my biggest issue with the class. I'm a Lawn main. Should have mentioned that first. The class I compare to most is Suck Ninja, who has buffs exactly the way I'd like Lawn to have them, with skills that are movement, while Flailing Blades Awaken Attack Speed buff can be easily canceled out with movement. I hate the skill itself. Has no other purpose. In fact, if you accidentally hit someone with Flailing Blades, congrats, you probably just threw the fight and or died in large scale. Or you make the buffs to be able to be applied like Awakening Nova's buffs. My tag character, super fun, nerfs were needed, where the buffs come from skills that have actual utility in a fight, either being a protected skill or a re-CC respectively. That's all. Hi guys, edit 25015 res. You may say like a lot, but it's only a fraction of how often Frosty changes subjects by saying in the most nonchalant tone, yeah.
What? Yeah.
Frosty saying yeah is basically him saying, all right, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's my cue. It's my unspoken cue. Oh my god. Now I can't say yeah, I can't say I can't say I don't know, and I can't say
Jesus.
I'm writing these down. I've posted
You're running out of
notes.
vocabulary, dude.
Yeah, right?
Correct. That's how I'm gonna end it now instead
Correct.
of Frosty's emergency. Calhat says Frosty's emergency shit immortalized in video forever. Oh yeah, you weren't here last week, Nayashi, but so I did the tournament, as you saw.
Yeah.
And the TLDR in the beginning of the tournament. So we got through the first 2v2 matches, and then the third 2v2. So the format was 3 2v2s, then the 1v1s, and then 3v3. We got through the first 2 2v2s, and then all of a sudden I got a rumbly in my tumbly.
Oh,
And
man.
I was like, I think I should be able to hold this all the way through to the end of this match, and then we have a break. It should be fine. But right when the 1v1 started, it was that, you know, when you just get chills down your spine.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, this is my plan is not working.
There is no fucking way. So I immediately turned. I tapped Arm in the shoulder, whispered, "I'll be right back," while he was casting. I go outside. The producer looked so sad. He had this like, "What are you doing out of the studio?" And I was like, "I am so sorry. I have to go to the bathroom now." And then so I just like ran to the bathroom.
Please, for the love of God, if you haven't heard the last episode, go listen to Frosty telling the story in the last episode, because holy shit, it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I had to go to the bathroom, ran back, ended up being okay, but that was the most uncomfortable thing. I was like, dude, I cannot believe this is happening to me right now. Like, why all times. I have 10 hours before the show. I had all yesterday. I ate healthy leading up to it. I was totally fine. And then just, nope, fuck you, Frosty. Just an
Yeah, that
absolute
sounds about
betrayal.
right.
Absolute betrayal.
I am sorry to hear that. That sounds rough.
People keep saying that
It's-
TLDR is Frosty looks like Steve Jobs. Oh my god. Markin Ho says the entire shit segment was absolutely top notch. I'm glad you guys liked it.
Yeah, what was the last episode? 122.
Yeah, 122.
That is now my favorite episode.
It's
of all time.
immortalized in poop. Daximus99 says, in my honest opinion, Awaken Witch Wiz need more movement or iframe to be better in 1 versus 1. Yeah, I mean, I think if it had like a split TP would definitely help its 1v1. And also maybe being able to cancel out of some stuff would help a lot. I feel like it's a little bit archaic being locked into most stuff. They added it to Aqua Gel. I think I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to cancel out a Bullite, especially if you can make it so Bullite just doesn't do damage when you cancel out.
Yeah, I mean that's how it should be, right? They
Yeah.
should make it to where. So first of all, you have to give everyone split TP. I don't know why you wouldn't. And then secondarily, you should be able to cancel out of any skill with teleport, and it'll just completely. Your skill still goes on cooldown, obviously, but it completely cancels it. It does no damage, but now you're in TP iframe, right? So if you want to burn that cooldown to save yourself from being grabbed, right? Technically, you're burning 2 cooldowns. You're burning your skill cooldown because it's not going to hit, which means you just burned it for no reason. And you're burning your TP cooldown, but, you know, hopefully you're not getting grabbed. You got to use it smartly. So.
Yeah. Meven Tevin says, I wonder if the Ranger backflip disengage is still going to be part of the class reboot. As a Ranger, I really hope it is. The backflip was shown in the clip. They first announced the reboots from the hideout ball. Yep, that one did make it in. And it looks pretty cool. I like it a lot. Pirate Poro says the Jatina Daily is out on SEA now, by the way. What is the Jatina Daily?
Jatina is the pin accessory person, right?
Yes. Okay. Maybe. So okay. So that dude.
They're probably talking about the 3,000 mob quest. Probably.
Yeah. Oh, I love that change. By the way. My God, that change is so nice because I can just go to where I'm normally gonna grind and do that daily now. So fucking nice.
Yeah.
That was an awesome change. Juan Damashki says the problem of normal pots has always been weight. Thus, my suggestion is to introduce the new weaker version of infinite pots to be pots that is refillable by using normal pots. It can be considered a weaker infinite pot in the sense that you can refill infinite pots in it, and each time you use it, decrease the counter or the amount of pots you have filled in it. So you still need to buy pots to refill it, but without weight. The question of which pots to use for the refill, I would just set it to be only refillable with instant XL. Well, that complex system is unnecessary. They've already decided on a system. I think it's pretty good, so it works out pretty well. JP CEO says, I've ran by this idea by other players and have gotten mixed responses. How do you guys feel about adding some type of CC break function to the game to combat the current grab/one-shot meta in PvP? I think it would be one of the best things that could be implemented into the game. Reslar?
No. We have V. Just make V.
I commented on that one, I think.
Make V usable in any situation. It makes no sense that you can't use it in certain situations. You also need to fix it from being tracked. That you shouldn't be able to fucking sniff out people's Vs. That's complete bullshit. And then just increase the cooldown on almost every single grab in the game.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of... One of the things that you'd have to consider balancing a CC break mechanic is how long and difficult some of the 1v1s can end up being. For example, if let's just say a Sork is fighting against a Guardian, and the Sork doesn't have enough AP to just kill the Guardian standing up. That fight goes on for a minute and a half, and then finally the Sork lands a CC on the Guardian, and the Guardian CC breaks. Do you know how upset that Sork is going to feel? Or if that was a Musa or a Mewa, it's like how difficult it is to catch someone and then just CC break. I don't know. It's kind of tough.
There's so many
resistances. Go ahead.
I was just gonna point out there's so many balance issues if you were to implement a CC break.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, you implement the CC break. So does your character just instantly stand up? Does that mean that grab classes are gonna get CC'd by a Sork or a Musa or a Maywall and then instantly just stand up and instant grab them? Is it going to like put them in iframe and not allow them to use any attacks for a second, but then somebody can just predict exactly when they're going to be like hittable and able to use abilities and just see some of them right over again? Like there's so many like it just doesn't seem worth it to me. There's so many issues that can crop up from it when I think a better solution is make V universal and then just increase the cooldown on almost every single grab in this game. And
Yeah.
I think that would solve basically that problem for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they had if V just worked consistently and you didn't have to,
If he just fucking
yeah,
worked.
if it
bro.
wasn't a hope and pray button, I think people would feel pretty all right. And same thing with the grabs. Daz, for the rework, succession 25% and 50% BSR, please. Also, idea for a weaker version of the infinite pot, limited number of use that can recharge with regular pots. That's so funny. 2 people mentioned that. They also mentioned that, like, let's see, how late were they? 3 days ago. They were like 2 days too early to see what the infinite pot rework actually ended up being. Frederick Mullen says, hi, I just want to let Reslar know that this episode he seemed more interested and I love these comments. Hi, I just wanted to let Reslar know that this episode he seemed more interested and had more engagement in discussions. Often other times he'd be like, yes, no, I don't know. And that's the end of his thoughts on some topics. But this time he actually tried to give his thoughts, which made the experience as a listener better. Also, people who comment need to start their comment with regarding this ... or according to ... so that Reslar and Frosty don't need to spend 5 minutes to speculate what the comment is about. That actually would be very helpful. Yeah, you know what was different this week? Reslar was tired. He's a lot
Yeah,
happier when
weird.
he's tired.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of several things. So, whenever we have an episode where it's just me and Frosty, I feel the need to talk more because I'm 50% of the show. Whereas a show like today, in which we have all 3 of us here and 2 guests, I am only 20% of the show. So, I try not to talk as much, especially since we want to give this spotlight to the guests. So, I don't know. It's just yes, and then there's also a bunch of IRL stuff too. Like usually, so last week we started later. We started at like fuck. What time did we start, Frosty? Like fucking like 3 p.m. my time or some shit like that. I don't remember. But we started later, so I wasn't starving. I'm always
Yeah.
starving when we do this podcast because we start it at like 10:30, 11 my time before like I eat lunch, and then we end at like 3. So I'm always hungry as shit. Also usually tired because I usually stay up late on weekends and then I get up and do the podcast. So I don't know. There's just a lot of factors, but yeah, I was more engaged last week because I had to be, and just the circumstances around it were a little bit better. But anyway, yeah, I'm a piece of shit. Moving on.
He promises to go back to the way he was this week.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't say shit the whole time. Like Flannels and Biceptimus were talking because I was just like, I'm just gonna let them handle this. I'm
Yeah.
gonna let them say everything they need to say. I'm not gonna pipe up one bit.
I was trying my best to mix you and Nyashi in, and then I started feeling bad because they were like the guests. I didn't want them sitting and waiting for like too long, so I tried to go back and forth so they weren't just sitting there waiting forever.
No, dude, especially when we have 2 guests on, it's like you want to make sure that they both get to say everything that they want to say, you know?
Yeah.
Like we'll be here next week. They won't be, so let them have the floor, like as much as they can have it.
Chat's also pretty impressed with you, Reslar, doing that quick math with the percentages and how much of the show you're a part of.
Dude, I am a college student, so
That's-
surprisingly, I know that may be a shocker to people, but I do attend a university. So
yeah. Which means he has to math out what percentage of his weekly paycheck is the top ramen and and then what percentage is the beer or alcohol. Dreadspark says,
yeah.
Reslar, Maybay, and Frosty, we've had such a crazy long podcast friendship There were wagons full of dooms, shy community stuffs, riots, and so much more. This friendship has thrived because of trust, and so you need to trust me now as your friend when I say that if Frosty gives feedback and his first 3 words isn't Dream Donkey win, then the dark days will loom over RBF and our friendship. I trust that I have nothing to worry about. Much love and keep up the great work. That was so ominous.
Dream Donkey, huh? I like it.
I'm into Dream. Now, are Dream Donkeys exclusive to Shy's Dreadspark or
I think yes. Yeah.
or
Sure.
exclusive to Zerkers?
No, like that can be Shy's unique passive is Dream Donkeys.
Dude, do you remember? You know what's so funny? It's like right now, Shy's can't figure out if they want offensive capabilities or just buffs. Like even within the Shy community, they can't figure out if they just want what they do to be better or if they should be able to PvP in 1v1 like everyone else. But just know where you guys started was you weren't allowed to ride horses. That's where it began. It's so fucking crazy to me. The fact that you guys ever had hope for that class is beyond me. I can't believe your guys just the amount of punishment you can withstand is beyond.
The history of Shy is so interesting because it was never intended to be a real combat class. It was an experiment. And then it's just people played it as a real combat class anyways. And so it slowly more and more became that.
Yeah.
It's still not quite.
Someone's asking me, do you think grapple resist should be easier to build? Cloud, nope. I absolutely do not. I think resists are horrible for PvP, and I think that grabs should just have longer cooldowns and be punishable if they fail, and people would feel pretty alright about them. I absolutely do not think solution to anything is building grapple resist or adding resist to the game in general. It's not fun.
Resist should be completely invalidated while you're CC'd.
Yeah.
Because how do you resist something when you're CC'd? It makes no sense.
Lol Snapped says, it's a rip for Sage and this game. I can't tell if that's cap. Tamahomie says, that guy
Did you just say that's cap?
That's right, dude. That's right.
You are far too old to say
what?
that.
He said lol snapped. I have to. That's cap.
Oh my
goodness. All right, that's cope. I can't tell if that's cope. Is that okay? What do you mean I'm far too old? How dare you try to define my literature, motherfucker? I'll say whatever I want. If I want to say that's cap with a D, I will.
Oh no.
Lol snap, that's cope and cap. I know ageism. How dare you? My God. Yeah, lol snap's capping for sure. Tamahomie says, that guy who's mad about his class requiring one more brain cell to play is gold. Lamau. Laughs hysterically in Suck Ranger. And yeah, about the class reworks, it's awesome. Can't wait for it to go live, but I do hope they change the pre-awakening passives on Ranger to give us the same passives as other classes with crit damage and sort, please. Always, thank you. Love the show, and I hope reworks will make Nayashe come back too. Okay, I have to say, I don't understand this over... A lot of people are complaining about the passives. Like, give us the same I mean, would you be willing to take a crit damage passive at the expense of all of your skills get nerfed? Because the damage is good on, like, for example, Succession Ranger, right? Your damage is already good. So adding a crit passive just means you just want a straight damage buff. So would that mean you just want to see the passive? Like, that would make you feel better to just look at the passive? So, like, let's say, for example, we'll give you 20 AP passive, but then reduce all your skills damage by approximately 20 AP, so that way you feel like you have a good passive. Because I know I would rather just my class deal damage than have a passive that says I'm dealing damage. Like, the passive is, like, almost irrelevant. I mean, there's only, like, 7 stats in this game anyway. It's, like, AP, DP, DR, evasion, HP, and then the special attack. So it's, like, or attack speed. So it's, like, such a weird thing to be so hung up on the passives, especially like crit damage is such a weird one because you guys do damage already. You know what I mean? At the very least, if you wanted a passive, I could see asking for like something defensive, like maybe some DR and a little bit of HP, but it's so odd to me that you just want like a straight damage buff on your passives. I don't know. John, fuck, I said it, dude. John says, I hope PA do good job with that rework. Awaken Mystic maybe will do some damage. Smiley. Maybe it will, dude. Or maybe it'll just have a bunch of AoEs. God. Hold on, I have to refresh. One of these comments needs to go away. Fuck, it won't go away.
Wait, which one?
The welcome trending top this year thing.
Oh yeah, I deleted that.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why it's just here for me forever.
What the hell? Wait, yeah, it's back for me too. What the?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe try deleting again so I can refresh. Scintilla Soul says, reference to my blooming nether flower comment. It was tested by some of the lawns on the lawn Discord. The hits in PvP from blooming get split between the targets, not the damage. This is what Crystal, EU AO lawn winner, mentioned to me, which would explain why the ability feels awful in PvP. Again, why is the damage? Why would the damage be different in PvP between the targets? And the damage, I don't know why it doesn't feel awful in PvP. Like that, you're like the first lawn I've ever met that thinks that skill doesn't do damage in PvP. It's the like one of only 2 of your skills that do damage in PvP. And it has 10 targets per hit. So I'll test this myself this week, and I'll reference back next week, and we could have a discussion. But yeah, blooming does do damage. It's literally like the only skill that doesn't do damage in PvP, or that does damage in PvP. It just doesn't have crit, so its damage isn't consistent. Did it work? Rez?
Refresh.
All right, let's try. Yes. All right, we're good. Your last time was a lie, dude.
Well, yeah, I don't know. So I reported it, and then it acted like it removed it when I reported it. But I guess you also have to refresh the page, make it pop back up, and then remove it separately, which seems kind of counterintuitive. But sure.
Yeah. Also, Scintilla, I'd need to see the tell him to record the test and show it, and also show the stats of everyone he's hitting and his accuracy and their evasion and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I played lawn for a long time, and blooming has not changed since just the straight damage buff, and the damage has been fine. I played Suck Lawn for a while. I also re-tagged Suck Lawn and played it for a little bit again semi-recently, and the damage on blooming was fine. The only problem was the damage on everything else was not fine. So Lost Soul says, Awaken Hash rework win, like the damage in group play is so bad. I can full combo someone with Awake and 2 skill someone with Suck. And my 295, 291, by the way. Please don't tell me play Suck, because I won't. I don't think the damage is that bad. Magnus, I'm not clicking this link. I don't think the damage is that bad on Awaken Hash either. It's just not like as bursty. You definitely have to do more of a combo. But there are really unique and cool ways to make the combos in large scale work well together and be mostly protected. So yeah, that's all our comments.
Alrighty.
Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about or touch on before we say bye-bye?
Closing thoughts? Anything? Nashi? I think Nashi died.
Yeah, he's
No, oh, sorry, I had it apparently muted the whole fucking time. No, nothing.
Talking
from
the
me.
whole time.
A little bit. I thought it was just being ignored.
No.
I thought it was like the standard. Oh, it's just a mail. Just let him talk.
Oh no, dude.
No, you haven't said anything for a good minute. At least the last 10 comments.
Man. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would talk a lot.
Oh.
It's okay. It's my own fault. You know, mute buttons and all. They're difficult.
They're difficult to use, man.
They're hard to remember, dude. Any closing thoughts, Nashi, before we head out?
No. I'm just excited to see what else they do with the reworks. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know, I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. We'll just put it that way. I don't want to make any sort of statements.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. Hopefully we get some guests. We will try our best to have someone on to talk about all the changes next week. Yeah, and that's it. You want to close this out, Rez?
Yeah, thanks everybody so much for watching, listening, all that good stuff. Special thank you so much to Biceptimus and Flannels. The links to their stuff can be found in the description. Go check them out and go support them and all that they do. They're both awesome. They're great PvPers and cool people. Special thank you also to the patrons as well as the Twitch subscribers on our YouTube channels, which you can also find in the description of the video or the MP3, whatever you're consuming the podcast on. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Later.